Ooh. Oh god, I'm dying. I can't do it. Welcome to the NetherKast. I am Cyborg, and I am joined, as always, by not Temp, but Razor and Chad. Temp is not
Yep.
here today. He's got company over this week, and he's pretty busy. So we're just gonna roll on through with just the three of us tonight. I didn't want to get any replacements or fill-ins or anything like that because, quite frankly, there is just a lot to talk about, and we run a bit long as it is. So I figure with the three of us, should be plenty. So hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm still coughing, so I'm gonna try when I'm not the one actively talking to mute myself throughout, so you don't have to listen to a coughing man for 2 hours. But
You still got the COVID?
well, it's it's like a lingering cough. The bad news is the more I talk, the more I cough. So it kind of it's not good.
Bollocks.
Yeah,
It's just me and Razor tonight, folks. Hold on to your asses.
Lost Edition featuring sometimes guest
goodness.
Cyborg. But yeah, I am back. Thanks everybody for continuing the ball rolling last week or last episode, whenever it was. Time is just going crazy. I'm losing track of time. I don't know what's happening when, but there's just so much shown. It is just insane how much content we've gotten in the last just few days, this past week, essentially. And that's kind of how it goes. And that's kind of what I predicted it would be. We talked about a few episodes back. Some people were, upset or not happy with the marketing. And I'm just like, this is pretty much how MK11 went, where they've gone from doing more like combat casts down to just a few, but they've like kind of shotgun fired multiple characters in the same trailer and stuff like that. Other than that, though, I mean, it's very similar to MK11 where you think, oh, well, they only have 4 months, so they're just going to make sure to use every single week. No. There's going to be times where we wait a week and get nothing, and there's going to be times where we just get an entire truckload of shit just piled on top of us of information and reveals, and that's kind of how this past week went. And yeah, here we are. Just a quick note before we get too far into things, because I will forget. Make sure to hit like. I would greatly appreciate it if you would like the video. That helps other people be able to see it, the YouTube algorithm, all that fun stuff. So just a minor thing on your part. Takes you 2 seconds. And if you are new to us, we are a Mortal Kombat YouTube channel podcast. We do several podcasts, including like lore breakdowns and retrospectives, as well as this one where we talk mainly about the newest game coming up and all that kind of stuff. We've been doing this for almost 9 years now. We're getting close to our anniversary, which is in October. So
My God.
make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for tuning in and giving us a chance. That being said, yeah, there's just so much stuff. Where do we begin? Shad, it sounded like you were starting to put together a list. So if you want to just
I did.
you can kind of lead the way here, and then I'll chime in. That way I don't have to cough as much.
Okay, cool. So, first things first. Razor, you're still without a PS5. Cyborg, did you play the beta? Because I played the beta.
I did play the beta for roughly like 30 minutes. Not because I didn't enjoy it, but I played a lot of the stress test. but I also went to EVO, which had the beta build, and I played quite a bit of it at EVO. And quite frankly, on top of that is I've been binging Baldur's Gate 3 because my brother and I have been waiting for this game to come out for forever. And I'm like, this is like a 100-hour type game. And he's got limited time. I've got, specific time. So it's like getting us together. The weekends are like kind of our binge time where we play all day Saturday and a good chunk Sunday. So I did not play a lot of the beta because I'm trying to get Baldur's Gate finished by the time MK1 comes out. So I'd rather have the time once the full game comes out than spend, too much of the time on the beta. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I get you there. Jen, as a matter of fact, has just purchased Baldur's Gate 3 and has installed it. So while I'm down here in my basement playing MK1 over the course of the next couple of months, she will be upstairs playing that. And I do not blame anyone because, as far as I'm aware, everyone has got to be customizing those penises. That's the hot topic right now.
Poot asked me
You
about
can
that.
tell me.
Yeah, Poot asked
You
me
can
about
tell
that
me.
yesterday. Poot's like, so can you give yourself like fat cocks in that game, and I'm like, I'm playing a female, so I couldn't tell you, but I don't remember being able to modify the body in that way. I know you could take all your clothes off, and I know there was a patch note specifically for Baldur's Gate, which was hilarious. One of the probably the funniest patch notes I've ever seen for a game, which was something like penises B and C colliding with certain clothing items has been fixed. And I'm like, in what other game? What other game does that happen? So that's just funny to me.
What happened to Shao Kahn's horns? What they tried to do with him in the last game? Just goes to show like how hard phallic symbols are to deal with. But again, you can tell me you're customizing dicks rather than playing MK1. I understand. It's fun. This is what people did with entire planets.
There is also a video game in Baldur's Gate 3, though, right?
Somewhere. I haven't heard anyone talk about it.
I heard there was a video game in there somewhere.
Oh god. Okay, so I have beta thoughts actually, and in a nutshell, I think that MK1 is probably the most fun I've had with a Mortal Kombat since 9, easily, just in terms of gameplay alone.
Oh, I love to
It
hear
is
that.
a real blast. It is a real blast to actually sit down and play.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, from the times I have played it, I love Lee May's just the way she feels, and just like the game got sped up a little bit from the stress test, so kudos to that. And yeah, I 100% agree. MKX I had a lot of fun with because you could, get in real quick and run, and it was very fast paced. MK11 obviously was what it was, definitely slower and a little bit jankier, and you had breakaways and stuff. This feels like they, Sonic Fox said with the stress test, it feels like MK9 on crack. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't maybe say exactly that, but I think you're onto something, that this is definitely the most fun, and especially when you add in the cameo dynamic and just being able to see all these cool characters on the screen in their classic outfits, like Shujinko and Darius and the cyborgs looking better than they've ever have, honestly. Like, it's their classic outfit, but it's better than they did them in MK9, which in itself was great, the classic retro outfits. But here, they're just like near perfect. I don't know how they could improve it any. Going down to like their eyes having the glow only in specific moments, and then other times it's just the black, like classic. Oh, man.
Well, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Like that moment where they were showing us the invasion footage, and you have Kameo Cyrax in the background, and he's in a kind of deactivated position, but he just sort of jerks up, turns on, and his eyes start glowing. I look at that and I'm like, oh my god, it's beautiful.
Yeah, they're so cool. They're so cool. But yeah, the game feels really, really good to play. Absolutely.
If I have a niggling complaint, a slight nitpick, it's that I do wish that like ground combos hit a bit faster. Like the tempo seems to be a lot of the time bap, 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 rather than like a bap, 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 It feels like it could be a hair faster, but that's like the only real issue that I've actually got.
Yeah,
like it's leaps and miles above MK11.
Yeah, it's kind of what I've been saying since the stress test. They've improved it, but I even said at the stress test, like, if it's left the way it is, I would be happy with this. I still think it's probably the best feeling, since MK9. But yeah, I agree with you. Just getting that just hair, that minute, like dial it in just a tad bit more, and hopefully they do. I think there's still been quite a bit of that feedback, along with just people praising it. That I know Max still has talked about like just kind of the animation. Well, that is one thing they've improved for sure. Is they've improved. I don't know if we ever kind of touched upon that, like how long certain animations take, especially with the cameos. Like they improved the Kano throw animation that used to take forever. They've improved stuff like that, which is great. I think they improved one of Jax's things. So they've been on top of it, getting things kind of dialed in. So hopefully they keep just like you said, like maybe 5 to 10% more tweaking towards speeding it up would be nice.
That's about it. And that's the only objective criticism about the gameplay itself I actually have. Like, it is so much fun to play, and if we're gonna start talking about gameplay itself, something I've noticed is this, and it's a bit bittersweet to me. This is gonna be probably the first game where I can't just pick up any character and kind of go. You know, characters in this game, it's been talked about a little bit on our Discord. They stand out and they play differently, and they have their own kind of character expression, I think is the term that people are using, in ways that MK has never really had before. Like, not everyone is going to be able to pick up Kenshi. Not everyone is going to be able to pick up John. I'm not going to be able to pick up Johnny for like anything because he's totally rushed down now, and I've never really jibed with that. Like I've been playing Johnny less and less and less. I think I might have mentioned this last time, but like you're really going to have to like find the guy that works well for you and run with him because just pick anyone and just being able to kind of do okay with him. That's probably a thing of the past now. Everyone is very different.
I would say it depends on the character. There's definitely some characters, like I feel like Lee May is one that you could probably pick up and play fairly okay, or, you know, do decent with, not great or amazing, but like you could do decent with. Whereas someone like a Kenshi, or there's definitely been characters with like crazy amount of layers. Garrus is another one. We saw some of that with Sindel today. Like there's definitely characters that have more depth and layers than others, which I think is a good thing, because then you have that's what any fighting game, you know, even like Smash or whatever, like games like these, you always have your characters that are kind of almost like the Shotos, like, you know, Ryu and Ken always were kind of considered like, oh, these were the ones easier to pick up, you know, for newer players. There's still things to learn, but they're a bit more straightforward. They don't have all this like crazy complex depth, and MK1 is definitely doing a lot of that here, where I feel like you're going to have some of your simpler characters, but you're still going to have, we have seen just, and I am just blown away. The more characters they show us and they really dive into it, I am blown away by some of the gimmicks or layers and the depth and complexity that they've put into some of these characters. Like, I didn't get to talk about it much last time, obviously just gonna give a quick little thing and then bounced out, but Garrus just has so much. Like, he just has so much. He just has crazy amount of depth to him, like things to keep track of while you're fighting, and like you're building up stuff. And Johnny's kind of another one of that, where it's just like he has that hype meter that he has to manage, and you're really trying to maximize on that. Ashra kind of has some of that going on, where you got to build up like levels of the darkness or whatever they called it. I can't remember exactly. And once you get to 3, you can like cash out, stuff like that. And then we saw a bit of that with Sindel can do some really dirty, crazy stuff. Yeah, and we'll get into all that obviously. But yeah, just in terms of the gameplay and how it feels, I am in 100% agreement. And I agree with you, because learning a character is going to be tougher in this game, because the cameos themselves all add in a different layer. It's like, think of how variations made it so you had like 3 different versions of a character that you could learn. Well, now you're really just focusing on learning your character, but with all the different all the different cameo options that can open up new things and allow different like pathways to take in the actual combat. So the cameos themselves just add a whole nother wrinkle. It's like it's not a whole different variation per character, but it's like 24 or whatever, 20, or I guess 16 is what we're thinking they're going to be at launch, and then they're going to be adding more over time. But think of those as all little kind of like additional options to potentially give you more combos, more setups, all that kind of stuff. It's crazy.
The comparison I make with Kenshi is that he's basically like Zato in Guilty Gear. For those of you out there who play that, like, if you position your opponent between you and like your Spirit Shadow, like your Sento clone or whatever you want to call it, like you're gonna wind up doing combos by accident.
Yeah.
And when you get this character in the hands of someone who really knows what they're doing, he's gonna be frightening. I think he's gonna be something to behold.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're still gonna have other characters like Sub-Zero and probably Scorpion that probably will pretty much play the same or similar to how they always have. And I want to stress it's a bittersweet thing for me, because this is a good thing in terms of making a widely varied fighting game. But I am going to miss the ability to pick up anyone and go. You know, I see the pros and cons of both sides. Because I've been so used to just MK being so accessible across the board for like the last 20 years of my life. We'll see how things go. I'm probably going to find someone that really, really jibes with me.
I feel like we've been getting further and further away from that mentality of being able to, or that ability to be able to just pick up a character like that. I mean, I've been vocal about that too. Like, I love the more simpler stuff where you can load up MK3 or MK4, just pick up any character fairly quickly and play multiple people on the roster. It's going to be hard to do that in this game, possibly the hardest it's ever been. But yeah, like if you look back throughout history, it started with the 3D era when you had the various fighting styles that kind of and the combos that would go between fighting styles and the craziness that ensued. That kind of made a level of complexity that made it hard to play a bunch of characters if you really wanted to get good with them. And then with MK9, it went simpler, which was very nice. And then you look into like the variations, and then things got complex again and made it really hard to pick up multiple characters. And this is just like the next level beyond that, which I'm with you. It's bittersweet. I really have been a champion of like, I want simpler so I can just pick up characters quickly and let the game speak for itself. If it's simple and fun, you just want to keep with it no matter what, like all the classics. But on the other hand, you know, some of the crazy things they're doing in depth, I am just so blown away by that. I'm like, I get it. Like, it's tough, and it is bittersweet to not be able to select many characters. But hey, maybe that's where the cameos can come into play. You learn your character super well, and then you can have the character variety through your cameos and learn just different little modifiers with them. So either way, but yeah, I agree with you. It's bittersweet.
Next thing I wanted to say is, my God, does the game ever look and sound beautiful in person? Because it's always a different thing seeing it like on your screen or on your phone, but just sitting down with it in front of my large TV.
Yeah.
It's really immersive. Like, I found myself actually just sitting there like listening to the main menu theme a little bit and listening to some of the background music where I could. I am looking forward to the soundtrack to this game so much. I've liked everything that I've heard.
Man, I tell you, like, I wish they played the sound louder in the combat cast. I understand why they don't, or even in the trailers. I wish we could hear more of these stage sounds. But you could hear just like a small snippet of it during the combat cast today of the living forest, and I'm like, that sounds good from what little we can hear of it. And even with the one where you're on like the firework docks or whatever those are during the day, they showed that with Garrus, I think. And I'm like, this sounds good. Like, I keep hearing things that sound good, but we just haven't been able to, you know, experience it ourselves, you know, in all of its glory. But I agree. The sound is great. The game looks phenomenal. And I was talking about this in our Discord, which, by the way, plug to our Discord. It's in our description. If you do join our Discord, don't be an asshole and don't be a noob. Be cool. That aside,
that's the only rule we have, basically. Don't be a dick. That's all we can.
But that aside, like I was saying this in the Discord earlier today, is I don't think any of the pictures or the combat cast especially don't do this justice, because they always stream at like a low quality. It says HD, but I'm pretty sure it's like the bit rate is so low for whatever reason. I don't know if they're going through some technical issues, but. And even in the trailers, like the trailers and the high res screenshots, the 4K screenshots, I'm telling you, none of them do this game justice as much as when you have it in front of you on your monitor or TV, especially if you have it in 4K. None of it looks nearly as good as when you have it in front of you. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is about the marketing, if it's all old builds or what. Even like I said, the screenshots, they all look just like. Even the high-res screenshots just look, there's something weird about them. It's like it's almost too much detail on the screenshots where it doesn't look like polished. It looks like you're seeing polygons and shit. Like, it's just way too highly detailed to a fault. Like the sharpness is dialed up to 1,000,000. But when you have it in front of you, I noticed with the stress test and the beta and at Evo, like, it just looks so fucking good. And we've talked about in previous episodes, like the colors, the atmosphere, the lighting, the details in the background of these stages, how far you can see back. And now I think we're figuring out why these are so highly detailed, because of the invasion mode, which we'll get into. But yeah, they are just so highly detailed, and the sound is so good. Like, I think this has so much potential to be one of the best MKs out there, one of the greats. Story aside, I'm throwing out that disclaimer for a long time. For a long time, and unfortunately, story aside, and we may keep having to put that aside. But when you put that aside, everything else about this game, I feel like, is firing on all cylinders, outside of a few nitpicks with like designs and whatnot. But hopefully, like, even in that regard, hopefully, like, alternate skins and gear and all that shit will allow us to kind of customize it to make these characters the way we want them to look. Yeah. What's next?
So, we've been kissing the game's ass just for how it looks and plays. Let's let Razor actually get in here and talk about stuff that he can chip into because he couldn't play the beta.
Yeah, I can't play shit.
Yeah, like, let's give the guy an opportunity to say something. Let's start talking about cameos now. Let's start talking about the cameos that we've seen. Let's start talking about Mr. Ed, because Mr. Ed is my cameo.
Motaro, I did not expect them to bring like all of his MK3 specials back, but they brought them all back. Like,
yeah,
he shoots 3 fireballs in a row when he does the tail fireball. Like, he spams it like he did in the game.
I was joking around in the Discord like the day before they showed him. I can't imagine what they'd give him. I was saying like he'll maybe he'd have like the giant like the MK3 kick, or maybe he'll just spam me with 5 consecutive fireballs. Not 5, but they did 3. I can't believe they actually did multiples. I wasn't expecting more than 1.
The thing I enjoy the most is that he can grab you and teleport you with him, and when they like went to the trouble of recreating the squiggly distortion way that he teleports. Because that was always one of my favorite teleports in the old 2D era games, because like visual effects wise,
it looked fantastic.
Most people would just glow or disappear, and he would like, I don't know, acid trip into thin air.
There's been some screenshots that have actually shown us his fatality as well. Like he apparently like picks you up and jams his tail into your skull and fires a laser blast.
It in the combat cast.
Yeah, he picks you up by your arms, and he stabs the point of his tail into your skull and shoots a laser down that blows up your torso.
Yeah, I think it was I think it was at the end.
I saw 95% of the combat cast, but I had to like log off.
Yeah, it was the very last thing.
Yeah, it was
okay,
the last
so I gotta
thing.
Because the last thing they showed a fight between Shao and Baraka, and Shao was using the Motaro cameo, and they did the fatality with him.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Which was cool. A lot of people were happy about that. Like they could have just done any old fatality, but like Motaro is like the big question mark. What do you do with him? Are you gonna have his? Didn't he have in the old games where he just like uppercut or just rip their head off or something like that? It was silly.
Yeah, he had. So they took his win pose animation and they just put the opponent's head over top of his hand, and it wasn't even aligned properly. It was slightly off.
And this was in the N64 version of Trilogy only. That's the only fatality he ever had until now.
Yeah,
and that's crazy one.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a good, and it feels like a classic fatality. Like you could totally see something like that in the old, 16-bit, 32-bit, or whatever. Like I could totally buy him just taking his tail, shoving it into the opponent's head, it glowing, and then their head exploding, or just them exploding, I should say. You could easily see that being done back then. So it doesn't feel out of place.
Animation frames now, like in my mind, like exactly what they'd use.
Because a lot of the cameos are using classic fatals. So since he never really had like a true fatal, I like that they kept it simple and kept it classic feeling. So that was cool.
And he did him well.
Yeah, overall though, Motaro, I really liked a lot of what I saw. I feel like they're doing him good justice. It feels very faithful to the old Motaro. It's weird seeing like the detail on his like near his back legs. Like he's more cyborg than I would imagine they ever intended him to be before. But now they're kind of like planting their flag. Like
his entire lower body looks like Cyberpunk 2077 character's face. Like he has all those plastic instead of skin and the seams.
And we see in Shang Tsung's, they call it Shang Tsung's lab. They actually put that up on Twitter as well, which we've seen that arena before or in earlier like gameplay footage and whatnot. And I think in story mode, that's where we see Melina laid down on the medical table or chair or whatever. So that's Shang Tsung's lab. They put that out there on Twitter today. And you see in some of the like art on the walls is like some of that centaur stuff. So I'm interested. You also see the pyramid on there, which is very interesting. Yeah, that's a whole conversation in itself. But like Motaro, he just looks badass. I know D4, just to kind of give his opinion on this since he's not here. He feels like a couple of his attacks are a little weak feeling. So like what they could, it would be cool effect if they put it on there is when he does his like horse kick and stuff. If they did a little screen shake action like classic, that would be really cool detail if they wanted to add something like that. But otherwise, like I feel like they're
It's
knocking this character out of the park. They, like Razor said, they've got all of his classic moves represented there in one way or another, outside of maybe the tail whip, which
Well,
that's just
the tail whip is missing, but that doesn't bother me so much because
he
they
uses
got
it in the
everything else.
fatality. It's fine.
The
yeah.
one thing that I like is that his throw is the same throw he did in 3.
Yep,
Like,
over the
lifts
head.
you up with one hand,
Oh
rears
yeah,
back
yeah.
with his other fist, and yeah.
This has been a day really long in coming. We've missed this guy for so long.
Oh
Like,
my god, yeah.
he popped up in 9 to get murdered because he couldn't be playable. Before that, it was Armageddon, where he had 2 legs and everyone just kind of groaned and winced. And this feels like the first time since 1995 that we've really seen this guy. And he
The
feels
the thing
back and he
that
feels present.
the thing that really made me smile is that it's not just that Motaro's in the game, but there are other centaurs in story
Yeah.
mode. Like
Yeah,
there's when they're
you can
doing the
see them in the
parade.
crowd. That's outstanding. There's
This
never
is the
been more
like
than
the
him,
first
and
time since MK3 we've ever even been reminded that there are other
More than one.
centaurs.
Yeah. I feel like they're doing more Shokan, they're doing more Tarkatans, which I guess we've always kind of had them, but like or Tarkat, whatever the hell you want to call them now. I'm gonna still call them Tarkatans. But like one praise I have of this game, and I know I'm probably on an island here, because the story and certain aspects are a little divisive still. But one praise that I have by looking at the bios and just everything we've seen in story cutscenes is I really appreciate, and Razor was kind of like alluding to this a bit with the centaurs, having more of them show up. I love the world building because it feels like that's just we haven't had a lot of that over MK11, MKX, MK9. You know, as we've had these story mode capabilities that started in MK versus DC, as we've been able to see all the cutscenes and all this cool shit in person, it's not just in text anymore. Like I have always felt like we only see like small little bits and bobs of this and that, and we don't really see the greater world interacting with each other, like the civilizations out there, like having several centaurs, like you were talking about in Shokan, and seeing all these things in the actual cutscenes is really cool. Like seeing the towns and seeing everybody interact with these people, even like, and we'll get to it with the story stuff, like the tea house and all this stuff, like just seeing civilization, and it's not just like a few characters talking to each other, a few named characters interacting with each other. We're actually getting like a world out there, and that is really cool. So I give it props for that. It feels like they're trying to give characters connections. Everybody feels like they're connected to like 3 or 4 characters instead of just one character, and I appreciate it for that aspect. Like execution and quality remains to be seen, but I do want to praise that so far.
I think there are some ways in which I agree with you, and there are some things where like yes, they are doing sort of more with that kind of thing. But there were also a lot of things, especially in X, when they
Yeah,
introduced Codal, where they did a lot of world building for Outworld in that game
yeah,
too.
yeah.
And
That's
I
fair.
think if I was to like make a counterpoint, the thing that I sort of miss from previous games, culture wise,
Yeah.
that I'm not feeling now is that everybody in Outworld feels like they come from the same culture, whereas I liked it a little bit better when, say, the Edenians had a different aesthetic
Hmm.
from Shao Kahn's army, who had a different aesthetic from the Shokan,
Yeah.
had a different aesthetic from the Oshtek, etc.
Yeah, I could totally see where you're coming from.
It's
Hope
it's it's a bit more unified now, and I'm not
yeah.
sure I'm into that.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. I agree with you though. Like I hope that seeing the differences of all these different races and cultures and so on and so forth, I could see that. I almost want to say it feels like maybe we're not feeling that to the highest degree, either because it's not there, or on the flip
Well,
side, a lot of what we've seen from story is during this parade that seems to be happening. So everybody's
well,
like
the
dressed under that same parade attire. So it kind of like makes all the centaurs and Shokan and yada yada yada
well, I
all
guess well,
blend together.
what I would sort of point out as the thing that's kind of bothering me is that the way Sindel, Kitana, Melina, Goro, and Shao Kahn, Tanya, all the characters are kind of dressed samey.
Yeah, I could see that.
It seems to be very, very much covered by like Liu Kang's attempt to make a better world. Like this all feels extremely intentional.
Yeah, like
It's not like they've forgotten.
story wise,
It's
I
like
can
this is
see
on
the
purpose.
intention there. I don't know if Shao Kahn's armor looked more like a samurai and that kind of, and he's not Shao Kahn anymore. He's General Shao.
Oh, don't let. I promise we will get to that. I promise. I
But yeah,
have things
point-
to say.
Point made, point taken. We'll have to see how it plays out for sure. But yeah, I
just,
agree with you.
You know, if the Shokan looked like sumo wrestlers instead of wearing pants, that would go a long way for me.
Sure.
Cannon pants still bothers me, and it's always going to bother me. It's oh my god, I can't. It's so weird. But you know what? Now that we're talking about Shokan, let's give it up for the real star of this entire thing, and that's Happy Drumming Shokan.
Bob, I think. Or no, is that not Bob? I think Bob is a different one.
No,
Bob?
that's a different guy. Bob is in invasion mode. He's the guy who with the hammer who works.
Yeah.
He's like one of the shops in Johnny Cage's mansion or whatever.
So, okay. So is the one drumming, is that supposed to be Goro?
I don't
I'm
think
not
so.
sure. It might be Goro, or it might be
Because
that
I
they all
don't-
kind of look the same.
They teased it
No,
on Twitter.
I don't think it is. Like he's got. I don't see like his ponytail bob. He looks like he's got no hair from what I
Okay.
remember seeing of him. I don't think it's Goro.
I want it to be Goro though. Like, I just want to see Goro doing the drums, like that throwback to the crypt or whatever. But like, I want to see him just do. He just looks so happy.
I'd like to see Goro like being uncharacteristically happy about something that's not tearing someone apart. Just Goro having the most pleasant day of all. Wouldn't mind it if it was him. I just don't think it is.
Yeah, yeah. You could be right. You're probably right. All right. What's next?
Okay, so we've covered Mr. Ed.
Oh,
So
before
good.
I forget, sorry.
Let's.
We did get a super chat. It was a $2 super chat, and
Yes, you
super
did.
buried. So let me do that real quick.
Aaron Black.
Evan Fulkerson, do you think Aaron Black will be in Combat Pack 2? I think he has as good a shot as many, of those. I like aesthetically, he still fits this game. I want to keep it as like martial arts, high fantasy kung fu themed as possible, but I would also be kind of, cyber ninjas and whatnot. So I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but personally,
Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
think-
mind if he sat out this game because we just got him 2 games in a row. But if he's like a late Combat Pack guy,
I could see him as
um,
a cameo.
oh yeah, absolutely, I could see that. But anyways,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised
I
if we
think
see him.
I think he's been around a couple of games now, and they've kind of sort of looped him in with the Black Dragon in 11 as much as they did with Kotal's forces in X. So I think we're taking a step back from those characters
Well,
for
I,
the
Yeah.
moment.
I wouldn't be surprised if we got a DLC pack where it was like Sonya Jax Kano playable, and then like Cabal, Cobra, Kira, Aaron cameos,
I feel like
something like that.
I feel like
you know,
he's got really good cameo chances, but I don't
Yeah.
somehow I don't expect to actually see him as a playable character in this game this time through.
Yeah, and quite frankly, for me personally, we are spoiled with this roster, and we deserve to be spoiled because after MKX and MK11, there's certain characters we're finally getting, both on main roster and cameo, that we've been asking for forever. So we're getting spoiled, and we deserve to be spoiled. But that being said, we know what Combat Pack 1 is with Quan, Ermac, and Takeda, and then the guests, who cares? But for like Combat
me.
Pack 2, like there's still Mortal Kombat characters I would rather see before we see Aaron. So that's kind of what I'm getting to. I would still rather
There's so
see
many.
I would still rather see like Cyrax and or Sector made as a main character. Same with Serena. I would still like to see both of them. Kentaro would still be fucking awesome. And then, there's still a few more in there. Like, it's never going to happen. Drawman would be great. Hotaru would be great. Kai would be great.
Surprise me with Kai. Kick my ass. That's what I say.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I say.
So there's still some really good options. And then, of course, you have like the more likely picks, like a Jade or a Noob Saibot. If they're not like main roster, they would be still, very likely high candidates on that list. And like Razor was saying, like a Sonya, Kano, Jax. I wouldn't count any of them out yet. As much as I would be okay with them just being cameos, and if they are like playable, that's fine. Just have it be the very, very, very last DLC pack, because I still feel like I want Combat Pack 2 to be the characters, filled with characters we haven't seen in a while. Is my main thing. But yeah.
All right, so should we move on to? Well, you have another super chat here. You might want to tackle that before we move on to Shujinko.
Yeah, how about we do this? Let's do all the super chats at the end because we have so much shit to get through. But I'll pull up our super chat on our YouTube channel, so I'll keep track of all of them, and we will address all of them before we get out here. I promise you all that.
All right, you're taking notes.
Yeah, like I said, I'll have it ready to once we're done getting through all the topics. We will hit all those super chats.
All right, let's talk about Shujinko Dink. So, he's back.
He's back and he steals the opponent's moves.
He steals the opponent's moves. How perfect is that? How perfect. It was such a treat to see him just walk up all like Kung Fu Pai Mei style and just go in with that like 100 like 5-point palm exploding heart technique right out of a wuxia film. It was so good.
My favorite thing is after he finishes his fatal blow and he walks away, he's brushing his beard aside.
Yes. They remember this guy as like 95% Pai Mei from Kill Bill, and it's wonderful. Maybe he's a bit too much. Maybe it's not enough Pai Mei, though. People have been noticing a lot of similarity between him and MK11 Old Man Shang Tsung. Like,
yeah,
he could stand out more.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a good look, but it's very visually similar to how MK11.
I think a lot of this is such a small detail, but if you just gave him the giant eyebrows back,
yeah, that
giant
would help.
eyebrows and like. Not a yellow sash, because the yellow makes you think of like 11 Shang Tsung. Change the color a little bit, vary it. I don't know.
Well, he's also wearing mostly yellow in this game too. Like his, his pre-order skin.
With shaders, the color probably shouldn't matter too much. We'll have all sorts of ways to
it's not
to change that up.
It's like the way that I feel about Smoke's masks, and we've already seen Smoke with another mask, so. Very good.
But my thoughts on him,
I'm just happy to see the guy.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Like I thought his fatal blow was one of the best in the game. Like I'm struggling to think of many that are better. Like Strikers is up there too, but like I love the multiple punches, like heart punch and all that kind of stuff going on. That is super sick. And so happy to see him back and doing the move mimicking thing, which is great. They didn't have to do that. That's such like a crazy gimmick to go down for this. Like you mimic. We don't really know fully how he works. I don't think yet.
I would presume it's basically like imposter Shinnok. Like your opponent has one designated move, then he can steal that particular one or something.
They did say that they're going to cover him more next time. I believe the next Combat Cast will have him. I hope it does. Because we haven't gotten enough of a look at him, but we've seen him do some really cool stuff.
I mean, cameos can have 3 to 4 moves, so he could steal a move on every single button.
He could.
I really like Temp's idea, where it's like he steals one from his opponent's, he steals one from his opponent's cameo, he steals one from the character that you're playing as. It'd be really cool if they did something like that. It did say on his listing that they put out that he does defensive and then the unorthodox counters. So I'm curious what that all looks like. But man, Shujinko, I did not expect Shujinko at all. I mean, leaks are out there and whatnot, but like that aside, like I would have never ever thought that he was gonna make it in. And I thought that's just so fucking cool. Like you can actually play Li Mei with Shujinko, assisting her. That's really badass, and I just can't begin to tell you how cool that is. And since Temp's not here, he wasn't able to join us for this. I did ask him like his thoughts on all this, and he's very happy and excited about Shujinko being in the game. He said his hype level is now a 7 out of 10, which on our scale would be like a 9 out of 10. So he's very happy. He still has his minor criticisms of like smoke and whatnot, but he also said that he really is digging Sindel, and we'll get to that later. But Temp seems like he's and in a lot of ways, Temp's eaten good with a lot of the stuff that we're finally getting, like roster wise and whatnot. This is kind of like right up his alley, especially when you consider Combat Pack 1, we're getting female chameleon cameo. That's officially out there. So like that's another character Temp's been asking for. Not male chameleon, I know it's not the same, but like female chameleon, I think, has been on his list as well. So it's just crazy.
It's been on mine for ages.
Yeah. It's just insane. Like we thought like Darius is total curveball, but then like getting Shujinko and stuff like this has just been such a treat. So I'm finding myself in the same boat that I feel like several are, in that I'm spoiled with like
Cameos are the
cameo
best
options.
thing about the game.
Well, there's that too, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of like character options for the cameos, I'm spoiled. Like, you know, Cyrax, Sector, Shujinko, who I wanted Shujinko back as well. Serena, and then seeing like characters like Striker and Motaro, and it's just like there's all these options which are super cool. And then some of them are doing such unique shit. Like it's really exciting. But yeah, Shujinko, badass. I'm just so fucking happy to see him back.
Like, I want to say more about him, but I just feel like we need like more time with him. But he looks.
And if
they absolutely did nail him in a good way.
I wonder what his fatality is going to be.
Yeah, he always kind of had shitty ones, so hopefully they.
Yeah,
he used swords in both of his fatalities because they couldn't think of how to do the stealing thing as a finishing move.
They've got to give him something new, original, and fresh.
I hope he does like the rainbow punch that he killed Onaga with.
That would be really neat. Just like drawing energy from Kamidogu's off the screen and just wham through the heart. Oh, you know what I'm picturing? I don't know if you guys play like Street Fighter Alpha at all, but like Gen, or he had this in 4 too. He had this move where he just like kind of like do a forward dash with his fingers clenched, and he'd wind up on the other side of them, and then they'd start like rocketing back and forth from like multiple hits, like they were hit by a samurai sword or 10 samurai swords. There's probably a specific name for that kind of technique, but that's the kind of thing I could see Shujinko doing.
Yeah, I would love like a
9 fatal, except they don't get cut in half.
Since they're usually like quick and to the point, I would love. I mean, obviously we've talked about like Pai Mei influence and other characters, but like I always go back to Kill Bill. I would love to see either like an eye snatch, which would be kind of crazy, or like the what's that death like heart explosion punch that they do in Kill Bill, like something like that.
5-point palm exploding heart tick.
There you go. So he does like the quick little motion where he just like taps on their chest in 5 different ways or whatever really quickly, and then his opponent like starts to walk like everything's gonna be normal, and after they take 5 steps, they just collapse, like, or in their like heart explodes or some shit, because it's Mortal Kombat, so you gotta have an explosion of the heart. So maybe they go in like X-ray style, and you see the heart beating, and it beats faster, and then all of a sudden it explodes. I don't know, like shit like that would be amazing. If we don't do something like that, which is like a call out to like inspiration from like Pai Mei and all that, then I hope it's like a combination of multiple people's moves, like in a way that's like a cool fatality, because you can't really do that with the many other characters outside of like a chameleon. So that would be cool too.
I could see them doing something like that. Like he walks up, he does the thing, then he does the beard flip and starts strolling away.
Oh god.
Then they just run forward to attack him while he's got his back turned.
Yes.
And then they just fucking jerk and keel over, and he doesn't even stop walking, doesn't look at them.
All right, delay the game. Hopefully somebody's listening. Let's put that in.
I need you to like. I know you're just about to go gold, but stop the presses. We've got to add like 3 Shujinko fatalities.
If you could just customize this guy a little bit for us, that would be great.
Yeah.
I hope he has the flying guillotine outfit back as an alt costume again, because
that was pretty sweet.
I am very curious about, because cameos are going to have skins, what they're going to do for like him and Darius and like other 3D era characters who only ever had 2 outfits, you know.
I mean, I expect to see that other outfit back, especially for Darius. I really do.
I guess with Shujinko they could pull for many of his younger stages from Conquest mode.
I would not mind seeing most of those back. I was never a fan of like his pre-old man stage, like with the suit of armor,
the middle-aged, samurai
armor. Like, something about it felt off, but I think that they could really like tinker with it and make it work a lot better this time through, for me anyway. So that's the first 2 cameos. Now, while we're on the subject of cameos, do we want to say anything about the new tidbits of info we got about Serena and Stryker today?
Yeah, they're interesting. Both have a really cool move. Like with Serena, you have the like, what do you call that? Like, it's almost like a.
So
Well, she's got like
Is
a
that
knife toss, and she's got like
Serena has her knives from Armageddon. She has a boomerang throw, which is Kia's boomerang from Mythologies, and then she has a move called Jataka's Curse, where she makes a rune on the ground, and if the opponent is standing over it, they start losing meter. It drains their meter.
Yeah, which is cool. That's like such a. I love unique gimmick shit like that. It's just so different. It opens up so many weird possibilities, I'm sure.
I appreciate the nods to Kia and Jataka, but it puts a little bit of a knife into my heart because this means they're probably not going to be cameos themselves, which I was really crossing my fingers for further down the line. It's a shame. Those two are
I think that would have been too much to ask for characters that were never that were only ever in the beat 'em ups, like them and Taja and No Face.
Like we used to like hope that one day they'd actually be characters. Now we're just hoping that they could be cameos, please.
Look, we're getting them in Cage Match. They're going to be characters in an animated movie, and Serena isn't.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's something. It's definitely something.
Actually, Serena could still be in that. Jarek wasn't advertised for Snowblind. We got surprised by him.
Always welcome to surprise, Jarek. Always. Stryker arresting people is a good thing.
Yes.
I really enjoy the red and blue, the siren lights every time you call him in.
I wasn't sure what the hell that was. Like initially, I thought he was just making a weird woo sound when he came in. I'm like, what are they doing with this? Are they making him into a goof? Oh, it's a police car behind him. That okay? I got it. I see
It's
what you're
it's Bender's fat rolls, the air escaping. Woo!
It's Fry's corpse.
Woo! Or was that Fry? I thought it was Bender, like the human. I thought it was a human version of Bender.
Was the human?
Yeah,
you may be right. It's been years since I've seen that. I think you're right.
Woo!
But no, cool shit from Stryker. I think that that arrest move is going to be the stuff of nightmares. It's going to ruin a lot of people's day.
Yeah, it's a restand too.
He's going to be a really popular cameo character. I think he's going to mess people up. And really, really sick moves too, like the walking in with the gunshot and the taser to the neck, and the truncheon up in the guts. Stryker is fun.
Stryker is one of the better looking cameos. Yeah.
I also liked his combo breaker, where he shoots the taser out at the opponent. I thought that was cool too. Stryker's done about perfectly in this game. He's so cool.
All of our cameos. We've had nothing but great things to say so far. What next? We want to cover a little bit of Raiden and Baraka since we've seen a little bit more of them since the last time. What do you think?
I don't have anything else to say about Baraka. He continues to look really cool, like in action. He's probably one of the coolest ones to actually watch the gameplay of because of the special effects on the blades, like the swiping and stuff. I thought that was all really cool. And then beyond Baraka, who else did you say?
Raiden. We saw a little bit more Raiden gameplay, and there is an image that's been going around over Discord of a comparison between a single frame of his animation and a statue of Japanese thunder god Raijin, where he's got like lightning orbs floating around him in a circle, and they replicated that in Raiden's animation. That is a really, really nice touch. I'm very impressed with that kind of detail.
Yeah, I thought that was a really neat call out. And as far as like Raiden's gameplay, it looks pretty much like Raiden. Like to me, it didn't look and I say that in a good way. Like I didn't see anything that I'm like, oh my god, I would have never expected Raiden to do something like it wasn't like revolutionary.
Well, he's a lot more agile than he usually is.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
And like I can see how that would be like a product of the fact that this is a new Raiden, that this is like a young Chinese martial artist, whereas the old Thunder God was a very like stiff and stoic personality.
Yeah.
So it kind of made sense for him to be a little I don't know, heavier.
For sure.
And there's definitely some more like I don't know, rolling on the ground and kicking up into the air and doing all kinds of like twisty shit. I enjoy all of that. The one thing I would say is that I feel like when he does his Superman fly in this game, it looks kind of weak.
Yeah,
No, actually,
I don't know. That's just me though.
It looks good when he's like cloning himself in like the super move, where there's a bunch of them just like going in X style toward the guys. He's in midair.
Right.
That looks really nice. But I can see where you're coming from about the actual normal move itself. I gotta go back and like rewatch it again because like we saw so much stuff from other characters today. He was like kind of in the back of my mind a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. But
I brought him up because a guy, Mad Choppa on Twitter, messaged me today and said that he noticed in the Sindel and Shao trailer that Raiden's lightning powers seem to come from his amulet, which is a detail that I missed. I didn't have time to go back and look at it.
Yeah,
today.
that makes sense because the other, like, we haven't gotten into the story footage we saw yet, but throughout that entire thing, Raiden doesn't have powers yet, so it's probably like he doesn't get the lightning until Liu Kang gives him his past self's medallion.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's gonna be an interesting and possibly a very heartwarming moment to witness.
Yeah,
I remember that guy.
That'd be weird. Awkward.
I had a friend. He was my mentor. Then he died. Now
he might have killed me once.
I'm mentoring you. He might have killed me once. I might have killed him once. It goes back and forth. There was a whole thing. So what else do we have?
I tell you the whole story, but it gets a little bit convoluted.
It gets really convoluted.
Yeah. There's two different reboots in this story.
It starts with a fire god. It ends with a time witch. No one was reading the art today.
And then there was that time we met Batman and Superman.
Who are they? Well, son. All right. First 17 minutes, chapter 1. What do we think? Do we want to go through it bit by bit? Or
So
summarize?
the first thing I noticed is that like the guy that got to voice Shang is clearly doing like his best Kerry Tagawa impression, and
oh yes.
as much as a shame as it is that we can't have Kerry every single game, and I understand why, because he's, you know, famous and also fairly old. I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, I actually wasn't sure if it was Kerry Tagawa. That's how convinced I was. So to me, I think it's good. I'm down with it. Sure.
The other one though is that
successor to be sure.
Yeah, it didn't feel insulting to me as like the player where I'm like, okay, just do your own voice because you're not doing that good of a job. Like it was almost like Terminator in Mortal Kombat 11. Like there's a lot of times it did not sound very good, like impersonation wise.
A poor celebrity impersonation, I would say.
So yeah,
this
like,
one is perfectly good.
Yeah.
Yet
to the chopper, the goggles they do nothing.
Damn it. My eyes, the goggles, they do nothing.
I think he was a little bit, what's his name on The Simpsons, more than he actually was Arnold, unfortunately.
It's like Wolfhauser or something. like
Rainier Wolfcastle.
Rainier Wolfcastle. Yeah. All right, but while we're talking about Shang here, I do want to say, since obviously we're not going to be getting old man Shang in this game because he's not going to be tied to Shao Kahn the way he used to be, having him like wear an old man disguise in his snake oil salesman getup was a nice way to like pay tribute to his like initial original look as old man Shang.
Yeah,
I don't expect to see old Shang in this game. If we do, I'm surprised. But that was a cool little bone for us. That was nice.
Yeah, I like little homages and Easter egg kind of stuff like that. Like little winks, basically.
Yeah.
I was honestly confused at that. Like when I was watching it, if anybody goes and watches my like reaction to that, like I didn't notice the wig being taken off, so I just thought he went from old to young, and I was like, oh, that was a cool cut of him like morphing like off, you know, without us being able to see it. But then after watching it again, I'm like, oh, he just took off the wig and he's basically taken off his disguise. I think that's kind of neat.
For a moment, I was like, is he even more decrepit than he's letting on? Oh, the whole thing is fake. Interesting. So what do you think of
I was surprised that he wasn't more bruised and beaten up from that crowd.
He seemed to, he seems to have gotten off pretty lightly considering about 20 people ambushed him.
Yeah, right. Usually when an entire crowd turns on you, circles you, and kicks you while you're down, you look a little worse.
It's
The
the
guy
meat.
didn't even have a black eye.
It's the meat origin story. His eyes hanging out, just fucking battered and bruised.
So he's sitting there feeling bad about himself, and then someone shows up.
A certain space baby, as Django would put it.
No, fuck no.
Well,
God damn it, no.
I think I speak for everyone, but the only thing I have to say here is Jesus fucking Christ with a K.
We're all disappointed.
Yeah,
I would just,
More-
she looks a lot better. I'm gonna give her that.
yeah.
I don't know about that. I appreciate them putting a cowl on her to cover up her baldness.
They
but
also gave her eyebrows.
I'm not a fan of that the black leather tunic with the swirly metal. Like, it's the same thing that like half the characters in the game are wearing, you know?
Yeah, I would say maybe she has an alt, but let's hope it doesn't even have to go that far.
Yeah, like multiple costumes means she's in the game more, and I would rather
don't-
not.
Let's continue being in a good mood because we're in kind of a good mood so far.
Yeah,
I will say-
the other thing I know, like speaking of impersonator voices, the person, it didn't sound like Jennifer Hale. It sounded like someone doing Jennifer Hale.
Yeah,
And
that may be the
Jennifer
case.
Hale is a voice actress, so like, is she just too expensive for them now, or?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure I understand why you would recast that person and
Well,
then
maybe-
ask the new person to do an impression of the old person.
Did they put any sort of filter on her voice for MK11, or was it just straight up Jennifer Hale? Like,
It had like an echo.
because
There was a lot of reverb and like echo on her. Yes.
Because my only thought is, like, I wonder if this just is truly Jennifer Hale. I mean, they haven't announced who it is yet, obviously, but
I
like,
guess it's possible that in post-processing they made it deeper to the point that it sounds like a different person doing an impression.
well, that's what I'm
But that
thinking. Maybe
seems
since because
less likely.
logistically, like, this has to be a Chronica that no longer. This is speculation, obviously. I don't know, but first of all, we don't know how the hell she's even here. That has yet to be explained, but it's possible maybe this is like a far less toned down version. She's not like a Titan anymore. Maybe this is just like a.
Well,
This is just
she's
she's just a lady. I don't fucking know. So that's maybe why she sounds less weird and ominous, I guess, for a lack of a better term.
I mean, her voice still had a little reverb on it, and her eyes are still exactly the
That's
same
true.
kind of
Yeah,
like
the eyes. Yeah.
glowing blue. So I would assume that it's not she has lost her powers and that's why her voice sounds different thing. It sounds to me like a different voice actor doing an impression of the previous voice actor. That's all.
I was surprised how long it took me to figure out that was Chronica. It took me. You would think the glowing eyes would have been the dead giveaway, but like, it took until she stepped into the light that I'm like, oh god. Like, I started to get it. The wheels started clicking in my mind. Like, it started. You could see my reaction where it's like, no. But it took me a few seconds. It wasn't immediately obvious to me, but that's just because I did not expect her to be in this. I mean,
Yeah,
and
I think everybody was hoping, let's leave that shit behind us.
now I will say, to put like a bow on it for me, I'm not gonna let it ruin story mode if she plays a part. I really hope she's not a major part, and I hope time travel's not the main thing. Obviously, it's gonna be there. Obviously, it's still going to be a story plot point. I think at this point, it's clear. But I will say, I hope that at the very least, it does not get in the way of us having our cool, nice kung fu moments, our nice, like, classic 70s, 80s, 60s, like the tea house.
Well,
I mean, we'll get to that point, but like the
let me
part at
say
the
this.
farm,
It's gonna be hourglasses, sundials, Rolex watches, clocks all up in your face.
I just
See, here's the thing.
I
Here's
hope
the
not.
thing is
I
that
hope.
for me, I actually wasn't that, I don't know, surprised or bothered when I saw her. And the reason is because I had already had that reaction when they revealed Geras, because I feel that the two of them are a package deal. And when I see Geras, I feel what I feel for Chronica. Even though they've, changed him some, and I know some people are fans of that character, and he's supposed to be on Liu Kang's side now, I don't emotionally care about any of that. When I see Geras, I think Chronica. So I had already been through those emotions.
Yeah, I
And
understand
so
that.
when I saw her herself, it was like whatever to me.
I have a slight annoyance. My head hurts a little bit. I prefer that she wasn't around, but as with every single thing story related, I'm not going to comment on it one way or another until I've seen the entire thing.
Yeah.
I said that about Reptile. I said that about Kuai Liang's Scorpion. There was just so much going on. I need whole context for that. I'm
Yeah.
not going to fly off the handle, and
We'll get into
I'll see.
context too for the later
I'm
part
not a
of
fan
this.
of that.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that character at all. I wish she wasn't around. Period. But I'll see. That's all.
And yeah, just to finalize what I was saying, like, I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm in the same boat as you, Chad. I want to see how it plays out first. I just hope that it doesn't. I hope it's not like you said, the sundials and the hourglass. Like, I hope those are there. Obviously, the hourglass is there. We know that much. I'm
Big,
just hoping
fat,
it's
sweaty clocks in your face.
I'm hoping it's not the main focus like it was in MK11. It can exist. It can take up 5%, 10%, whatever. I just don't want it to be the main focus because I'm really loving the idea of being able to explore Outworld, explore, these Asian aesthetics and these themes a lot more, like the Tea Party scene from MKX with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Like, I want that to be the game, and it feels like we might be getting that with like the farm stuff and the tea house stuff, what we see in this first chapter. As long as that stuff continues, and that's the primary thing we see in this game, then I'm gonna be able to just overlook the other bullshit. It's only if it becomes if it only becomes dominant again, like it was in MK11, that's the only part that's really gonna start to rub me the wrong way.
I think we all agree there. Speaking of tea houses, let's move on.
Yes.
We've got Kung Lao and Raiden. I still wonder who named him that. It's a very odd name to give a human being.
It is a particularly Japanese name for a Chinese villager, but I guess Liu Kang gave him that name when he shaped the universe.
They're not going to acknowledge it. I've rolled my eyes. I'm moving forward. So they're doing some gardening next to next obvious DLC choice, Old Man Wei, who I think speaks for both us and Razor. That's us. We are Old Man Wei.
I think I'm more the guy at the bar who was ignoring the fight and broke off the ice to put in his drink.
I'm the one who has the drinking gimmick. You should be the one that spits. I should be the one drinking.
The only reason I don't have the drinking gimmick is because I have less money than you.
Are you guys arguing who spits and who swallows?
Yes, clearly. All right.
You've unearthed the subtext.
Yes.
I think you've been sculpting one too many. I think you've been sculpting one too many dongs in Baldur's Gate 3, sir.
That is possible. No
All
further
right,
questions.
So, Raiden and Kung Lao are working, and they're mouthing off at each other, and they make their way over to the tea house, where they're gonna have a fight, and they're gonna, see if they can gain the approval of Madame Bo. Madame Bo.
Yeah.
What do you make of Madame Bo?
I'm not prepared to commit to saying 100% like some people are. Oh, Liu Kang turned Bo Raicho into a woman. I think the name might just be a cute nod.
There is something to maybe give credence to this, I will say, beyond just the bow. Well, beyond the fact that her name is Madame Bo, and beyond the fact that clearly she can fight, because she does.
It's a person named Bo who trained Kung Lao and Raiden how to fight. I get it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say there is that picture from EVO where there was the female Kung Lao cosplayer, and Ed said, keep this or remember this when you play MK1 story. That could have been him alluding that one of the male characters is now female.
I'm just going to say this. The presence of Madame Bo really is a thing that makes me feel like all the time shenanigans, the whole new era, it makes it feel like a stunt. Because I cannot believe for 1 second that we will never see old drunky McFartface. Ed loves that guy too much. I don't believe it.
Look, between you and me, we all know that at the end of this game, it's going to be Crisis on Infinite Earths, right?
It's just you and me talking. Nobody else is listening.
We shall see.
I will say though, I love Madame Bo. She's fucking great. If this is Bo Raicho, I'm not ready to accept that either. That's the case. But if it is or not, I don't care either way. She's great in her own self. I love this idea of this character of this old lady ass kicker, and I want her in Combat Pack 2.
So while we're here, when I went to bed the night before the 17 minutes of footage came out, when I went to bed, I knew Smoke as a lifelong Lin Kuei member. When I woke up the next morning, Smoke was a devoted Shirai Ryu member who beat up old women. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea who the hell Madame Bo was. I
So
log on.
I
log on to
gotta
Discord.
say,
Hey Shad, check this out. What the hell is happening?
I love-
What is going on?
we sure were told that the Lin Kuei in Liu Kang's universe are like protectors and a force for good, and yeah, Bihan has just recently taken them over, and it's kind of going to his head.
And now he's
But,
shaking down a
like,
tea house.
Collecting protection money like the local mob is some real small time shit compared to being international hitmen, isn't it?
You people out there still sure you want a good Bihan? I don't think that's on the menu. I really don't.
I have seen, like, in the Discord, there were people
The theories.
speculating because
Yeah.
you can see Liu Kang is watching them. He's one of the patrons at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes.
He may have set up this scenario because he
As a
wants
test.
to watch Kung Lao and Raiden fight before he recruits them.
Yeah.
It's very
So the
possible.
Lin Kuei
I think-
might be pretending to be gangsters, and Smoke might be pretending to throw an old lady over a balcony.
Well-
in fairness, she swung first.
She did fight first,
don't-
but also
I don't
will,
care if you've got Alzheimer's. I'm defending myself.
I will point
All I'm
out.
saying.
This is what I pointed out in the Discord when this theory got brought up is she takes like visually no damage she gets her head smashed into a railing and then thrown over off the balcony through a table, and you notice there's no bumps, no bruising, no blood splatter. This is Mortal Kombat. Like if that is actually taking place, I would have expected blood to fly, teeth to fly, and maybe even exploding on impact onto that table, 8 rib cages come out. And none of that happened. So I'm questioning it, and I think there might be some validity to this thing. I mean, it's an old trope. They've done this in several movies where they're like testing a new recruit, their ability and stuff, and then they kind of like, they start clapping. Maybe the very next scene is Liu Kang clapping and saying, well done, you kicked the Lin Kuei's ass. And I also will point out, it's weird that these guys, it was Kung Lao's chapter, right? It's weird that Kung Lao can take down the entire Lin Kuei, and beat them all in fights. It could be story mode bullshit, like chapter system.
I did think it was funny that a bunch of elite ninjas get beat up by 2 farmers.
Exactly. So I think that leads maybe just the logic's being tossed out because of the chapter system, but if not, I think that's another like nod towards this has to be a setup. This was just a test.
I really do
the
like
thing is,
the test
in
theory. It works for me.
other like little bits we've seen of Smoke, he does not come across as the kind of guy who would gruesomely beat up an old woman.
I gotta say though, I enjoyed it immensely. I'm loving all the memes and the gifs and the bullshit.
You should have seen my face when I logged on that morning. I sat down at work and I'm like, what is he doing? No! I thought I knew you, man! Your spirit was too pure to exist in hell! And now
God.
you're beating up old women!
This gives me an idea. On Discord, since we are fully nitroed out of our minds, I'm gonna make that gif of him beating her up our banner on our Discord.
Excellent! I'm all for it. Flawless victory.
Temp is not happy about it. I will once again try and represent his opinion here. He was very, very not happy because he thinks that's a bridge too far for his favorite character. Because I tried to present before the test theory started being presented to me, anyways. Like I was like, well, maybe this is a Smoke that's all he's been raised by Bihan. essentially after his parents died. And Bihan's a complete shitbag, so Smoke just doesn't know any better. He's basically a thug at this point because he was raised by a ruthless thug as his leader, and maybe that's why he's beating up a grandma essentially. And then it's a redemption arc, and by the end of the game, they're gonna obviously oust Bihan. Him and Scorpion / Kuai Yang are gonna get the hell out of there and not go with Bihan anymore.
I mean,
that's obviously clear.
It sounds an awful lot like they split off and create the Shirai Ryu.
Because they're not happy with the way that Bihan's running things.
Exactly.
I try to put forth the following line. This is Smoke. We trained him wrong as a joke.
But yeah,
he has no sense of morals.
So I was like, maybe this is a redemption arc, and he's gonna redeem himself from this. And Temp wasn't having any of that. He's like, beating up an innocent old lady is too far. Well, we also don't know that she's innocent. I'm just gonna throw it out there. But
he threw the first punch.
I do wonder why Kuai Liang, who's from China, and Tomas Verbata, who's from Prague, who were both raised in the Chinese Lin Kuei, would start a clan and call it Shirai Ryu, which is a Japanese name.
We don't have a name for Smoke. It might not be Tomas this time.
Yeah, it might not be Tomas, but his face looks like they modeled him to be like Caucasian still, so...
As a boy, he loved to hunt.
I like turtles. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I thought it was hilarious. I do hope it's a test because that'll make the moment itself all the more just like be able to just laugh at it and have fun with it instead of feeling like anybody feeling down about Smoke being an asshole.
No, I'm sure there's a rational explanation. Anyone who's leading a clan that Bihan is heading up is on the up and up. I'm sure he's fine.
And I do think the fact that we know Liu Kang recruits them here. Why would he recruit a bunch of guys that are just beating up an old lady? Like, is he that desperate?
Well, it sounds like people are going to have to put up with a lot of Bihan's shit.
Yeah.
Like, why would they? But they will.
They will.
So, apart from that, there's a few bits and bobs we've seen here and there. Like, one of the first bits that we saw out of this whole tea house scene was like Kung Lao throwing the hat and it landing on the back of Bihan's head, and that whole excellent gag. And now we've seen the worst get over here in history, which is amazing.
I also like the shrug that he does. That's a meme in itself. He's like,
that was the lowest volume they've ever played that Ed Boon voice clip.
Okay, I got at this point. It's probably about time to re-record it. It's out.
I've said a billion times, Ed should not have the Guinness World Record when they're reusing a clip from 1997. That's cheating.
Oh goodness. We don't really get too much more than that. Do we have any thoughts about
to be the longest reigning voice actor for a character? You should have to constantly re-voice act.
Have they been using the same clip?
It's. I promise you, it's 100% a clip from Mortal Kombat 4. I know exactly which clip it is.
It's been the same one, yes, for a long time.
That's insane to me. How did they even keep it like as high quality as it needs to be? That's weird. That's weird.
Honestly, audio technology hasn't advanced that much since the 90s.
Okay. Weird though.
I would really
if you have the masters, I mean, like
it's
not like they're ripping the data out of an old arcade console.
I mean, I would contend with that point. The world we live in now basically no longer has any need for much in the way of like studio recordings unless you're an absolute professional rock star or pop star. Trust me, home audio tech has improved a lot.
Well, I mean, stuff's gotten smaller and more affordable and that kind of thing. But whatever they had at Midway Studios when they were making MK4.
Let's say, just listen to Razor's mic now versus the Xbox headset he first started recording on. It's very, very highly improved. All right. Well, I do want to say one other thing about the story clip. I was kind of touching upon it earlier, but I really love the farm stuff, love the tea house stuff. I love the like camaraderie between Raiden and Kung Lao. It seems like a fun duo, a lot more fun, like playful banter than what we've seen previously with like Liu Kang and Kung Lao. It's not just like this whininess. I feel like It just
He
seemed like it
feels
set the table for this fun adventure we're about to go on. It felt like the
Yeah,
start of a
that is.
fun movie.
yeah, he feels like he's not like kind of a bitter smartass, but kind of like, just kind of he's a bit of a jester. Like he pokes fun. It feels like more playful camaraderie. I feel like maybe Douche Lau is gone for now. Possible.
What? Yeah, he still seems like the kind of guy who could get a big head, but they are doing a good job currently of making him not unlikable, which is a line that has been difficult for them to walk with that character.
So that's about it for the new footage we've seen. Thoughts so far? What do we think? We're good? We like it?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
looking.
very
Uh,
intrigued.
I'm looking forward
intrigued.
to story. I'm very interested. I know, I have tempered expectations, but like I said, it seemed like it set the table for a fun adventure, and it's filled with so many characters I've been waiting to see. Characters that never got this screen time, or in an actual like cutscene type scenario. So I'm looking forward to that for the character moments alone. I'm trying not to get too hung up on the overall story,
Same.
things like that. I just want to, it's kind of like the tea party, like I want to appreciate it for the character moments. And if we get good character moments, cool.
I mean, for all my problems with like Aftermath and stuff like that, there's so many little bits like stuff at like Shiva's throne room, or basically anytime Kari Tagawa Shang is on screen. That's the stuff that I live for, and it looks like we're going to
Yeah.
be getting a lot of that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there was nothing in the first chapter we saw except for Chronica that would piss me off. So far so good.
All right. So, what say we about the invasion system? Seen quite a little bit of that too.
I'm actually really into it. And I'll tell you the specific moment that I started to think, this game might be all right. They showed a fight, not even a fight, but a mini game where your character has to jump over a bunch of green fireballs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I started thinking, this might be like the MK9 challenge tower. This
Yeah.
might be what
A
I
lot of
have
fun.
been missing from tower content, because MKX and 11 didn't have any of the kind of non-fighting like everything in those games is test your luck, basically. And that's the only form of single player content that's available to you outside of story mode.
Yeah.
And just play ladders.
I agree with you. In my reaction to this, I was very concerned, very, very concerned. But I mean, we all knew this was coming. Like, we all knew there was going to be some grindy system in the game. Now, after thinking about it further, seeing more footage, because it was like 2 in the morning when I was making that freaking thing, because all the embargo for the content creators that got to go and get like footage and stuff like that. It must have went up like at like 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I was literally laying in bed, ready to go to sleep, and that stuff dropped or became available, and I'm like, ah, shit. So then I'm like, okay, well, work night, I'm gonna fucking be up till 2:30 or 3 recording this stuff, which I was, but gotta get it done. And so I'm like, I was pretty concerned about it, but then I saw a lot more footage after I'd recorded that and started to see more cool things, little Easter eggs like Drawman's mask sitting on a table, and like little neat things over here. Bob.
There's so many little things, so many tiny things you have to zoom in and notice. And this is going to be a really rewarding mode, I think, just for atmosphere and the fact that they
Yeah.
narrate after everything. There's a lot of talk and stuff.
And it's got
This
it's
is
got
collectors in there.
it's got test your might. Like I am much more open to it. And also I'll say one thing. We know now that the seasons are going to be 6 weeks long, and they said something like they expect it to be about 9 hours of content per season. 9 hours over 6 weeks is not nearly the grind I was afraid of. If that's true and that's accurate,
Indeed.
I can do 9 hours every 6 weeks. That's nothing. That's an hour here, a couple hours there, whatever. Or I'll just binge it all in one day and get through it and just move on. Like, to me,
That's very reasonable.
that is incredibly reasonable. So if that's true and that's accurate, obviously big a big if there. I mean, I'm going to take Derek at his word for it in their Gamescom interviews, but hopefully that's accurate. If that's true, the grind is not going to be nearly as bad as I was afraid of, so I'm hoping that's the case. And I do like the challenge tower aspects. Tester might. I love the environments. I think that's super badass to be able to walk through it. It's kind of like a half step to conquest, so I'm enjoying it for that. I also like that each season is going to be story, like they're gonna tell their own story, but it's non-canon. So the first story that they're telling with season 1 is related to Hanzo, and it's Hanzo not from the Mortal Kombat 1 universe, but a different universe. And he's looking at he's going to all the universes, and he's trying to find one where his family is still alive. And he finds the one that his family is still alive, and it's the Mortal Kombat 1 universe. The catch is his wife that he knows is now married to Kuao Yang Scorpion, which is awkward. But like, I think that the fact that there's like story with cutscenes and the art animation looked really badass. It was kind of like that. It's like the ending animations almost. Like it had that comic style, the moving comics and stuff. I thought it looked really cool. So with all of that in mind, I'm gonna give it a chance regardless before judging it. But I'm more open-minded and looking forward to it than I was when I first saw it in action.
I mean, for store stuff, I mean, it's not like the Invasion, the season stories or any kind of canon. That's just like a gimmick. It's like something you'd also see in the mobile game.
It's challenge,
which is so it's fine.
It's a bunch of nonsense like Ermac fighting 3 Goros.
It's just an excuse to have Scorpion themed missions to play through. That's fine.
Yeah. And one thing's for sure, and you kind of alluded to this before, but this kicks the ass out of Towers of Time. So if I have to choose between this with an environment and mini games and all the other shit, I will take this every day of the week over Towers of Time. So there's at least that.
Now,
so already, just by like initial presentation, I'm very much liking this better.
Now, 9 hours of content is 9 hours of content, but I am worried about the kind of reward they're going to have us go fishing for. Because when I see stuff like common background, that lends itself to like average or normal, and then rare, and
uncommon,
then ultra
rare.
and then I don't want to see anything like Injustice 2 and Nightwolf and Nightwing's freaking Tonfa sticks that were absolutely impossible to get a hold of. You had to like grind the RNG, and so many people I know never bothered. They just gave up.
Yeah, I never unlocked the stick for Nightwolf. Nightwing.
Okay, I'm not the only one. Good. Why are we doing that? Let's just call them the dick sticks. We all call them the dick sticks.
Yeah.
Dick sticks. And in a scenario like that, I promise you, like, I'm not doing it. I don't have that kind of time in my life.
Right, me either.
I'm down with 9 hours of like play, but I'm not down with like 18 hours within those 9 hours of play trying to like get Cyber Smoke's outfit or whatever the hell you want, you know?
Right.
I just that was one of my major things about MK11 is just respect my fucking time.
Yep.
And don't make me be on my ass for an hour on Wednesday the 30th at like 2 a.m. for like 1 day. All that ridiculous nonsense with like the gold spheres. I don't want anything like that. It was painful, and I hope and pray we're not getting anything like that this time through.
Yeah.
Crossing fingers.
I'm waiting. Like, I'm pretty much an eternal optimist in a lot of ways, but I'm also a realist. And I do think that there could be a potential other shoe that drops here where it's worse than what they've, initially led on it for it to be. But then it goes back to we don't know what we don't know, and I'm going to give everything a chance before judging it. So that's more of like, once review copies start going out and people get their hands on these things, and then those review things go up, the embargo, then we're going to really find out what's in store for this mode. Because even the content creators that went out and did that, I bet you they only had like 30 minutes to an hour to record that, if even that, because it's such a new mode. So even they probably they only know scratching the surface of what this entails. And they've done interviews, where they talked about it. And like I said, Derek and stuff said 9 hours. And when compared to like a battle pass and anything like that, he was quick to just be like, no, that's not what this is. He was very adamant that is not what this is going to be about. But at the same time, realistically, a lot of games have this kind of stuff. Granted, this is a full price game, not a free to play game. So hopefully they keep it reasonable. But yeah, so I don't know that there's much else to say about it, since, like I said, we don't know what we don't know. So it's just really speculation, and we could be talking about all doom and gloom if we think about what they could do bad and all that stuff. So it's not
I'm
worth
looking forward to the good things. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of realms they come up with, rather than just like, we have Johnny's mansion to work with. I imagine seeing the Living Forest and maybe Chaos Realm and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's pictures
out
there for those.
Just to see the background.
For the Living Forest, anyways, not Chaos Realm.
Excellent.
We don't even know if Chaos Realm exists. We don't know yet.
I'd like to look, if they're going to do non-canon stories where like Hanzo's like searching for his family.
That's true.
We can do Chaos Realm.
Yeah,
no problem.
That's very fair. All right.
So I think that pardon me. I think that actually brings us to tonight's combat cast, where we covered Sindel, Rain, and General Shao. Now, in addition to that, there has been the trailer that showed us a little bit of in-depth interaction between Sindel and Shao Kahn.
Yep.
Or, sorry, again, General Shao. That's how I'm going to have to break.
Yeah, that's tough. I just say Shao now.
All right. The dialogue seems to really indicate that we have good Sindel again. That's the talking point that I wanted to bring up. Because my God, am I ever grateful. And my God, am I ever afraid that this tension between them that we see in the trailer will erupt into sexual tension, and they're just gonna start making out.
No.
If that happens, Razor, the Lost Becomes Killer Instinct podcast. We never look back. We never look back.
GIF of
I've been waiting for a long time to do a Killer Instinct podcast.
GIF of Team America Police, whatever that, where they're all puking everywhere. Yeah, we don't need that, please.
I just thank you, NRS, for apparently listening to the criticisms of 11 Sindel. I greatly appreciate this. That was a character that meant a lot to me. That was always one of my favorites. And you did her dirty, but now you seem to be undoing the dirty. So please don't redo the dirty by having her do the dirty with the dude with the dirty horns.
I'm sure the only way we're gonna get back there is if there's a step in between where she's killed and raised by Quan Chi.
Okay, see, that's point 2 I wanted to bring up, because the dialogue that she expresses in the cutscenes versus the dialogue and her mannerisms during the fights, where she's kind of cackling maniacally.
Yeah, they're still doing the dommy mommy dialogue in her gameplay. So
who's your if nothing else, concerns about like her being evil aside, I feel like it's a certainty of saying at least she's probably gonna get killed off and rezzed MK3 style, MK9 style, whatever you want to call it, and I'm fine with that. Like, that's basically Sindel's original storyline, and that's perfect in my book.
I would like to see this character model with white eyes and black lipstick, and that's the only opinion I have regarding whether or not, she'll die and come back again.
That's not even what I'm looking forward to the most, is that we're going to actually get Sindel on a throne alive, see the way she interacts with her daughters, with her people, makes her speeches. We'll get to see what kind of a person she actually is, and I've been looking forward to that for a long time.
Yeah.
Because all that we've really had of good Sindel has just been deception, and that's been it. So this is long overdue.
And it seems like the death of Jared is actually going to be like a potential even subplot point here, which will be cool.
Yeah, it seems like it has happened very recently.
Did I say it wrong again? I fucked it up again, didn't I?
Which one?
Well,
I said Jared.
It's Jared in the games. It was Gerard in the old cartoon, and I personally prefer Gerard because it's spelled with 2 R's.
From now on, mental note Gerard. I got called out for it once.
No, it is Gerard. It is Jared in the games.
Okay, well, Fucking, I'm
But
right
you're not
then, you
stupid.
little son of a bitch, whoever you are. No, I'm just kidding.
You know, it's like
Choose
King
your
Brandon, you know,
destiny.
King Michael. It's not a fantasy name. It shouldn't be Jared. It should be Gerard, but it is
Gerard
Jared, and
sounds
that
better to me.
sucks.
Gerard is a cool name.
Do it whatever way you feel comfortable.
I'm with you
So
on the
while we're-
Sindel stuff. Honestly, so far, like, yeah, Sindel I thought looked really cool, and yeah, I'm just sticking with kind of what you were setting the table there. It's so good to see good Sindel back. I know when we did the the character ranking tier rankings, we got into a very like passionate argument both back and forth whether she should sit this out or be in here, and I said, well, maybe if they put her in here, it'll be their way to like make up for it, and that way the last taste of Sindel in your mouth, pause for laughter, wink, the last taste of Sindel in your, the last taste of Sindel in your mouth in everyone's mind isn't the MK11 one, and that way they can kind of clean it off and be like, all right, we're giving you what you want, and not only are we giving you what you want, but she's going to play a bigger role, and we're actually going to be able to see those motherly situations play out on screen, all the things that we want. So I'm hoping that that is indeed the case, and yeah, so I'm very happy to see it.
A taste of open-toed boots. Why is every lady in this roster wearing open-toed boots?
Not just ladies,
It's weird,
several
isn't
of
it?
the men too. Maybe
Oh yeah, like 90% of the cast has shoes that their toes are showing.
it's not even the feet. It's
There's
just the
a-
toes. Got the toe fetish.
I think-
going
They think we wouldn't notice.
on.
I'm on
Fucking
to you,
jury,
Tarantino.
jury and Street Fighter fucking shit. What is happening? It doesn't actually bother me that much. I don't care. Well, anyway, so further on with Sindel.
Yep.
How do we like that fatal blow and that fatality?
I loved it. I fucking loved it. The fatal blow is absolutely gruesome and really fucking grossed me out.
It's
Seeing the
it
like
hits-
I mentioned before, I had hip surgery a few years ago, and they had to pull my leg out of my socket. So seeing legs yoinked out of their sockets like that, just fucking it's not even like the ball. Like people look at it and like, oh, their balls are being torn in half or their assholes being torn open. No, it's the fucking legs coming out of the sockets is just absolutely gruesome.
Yeah, it's the ball joints of the thighs being pulled out of the
God.
pelvis.
So painful. Just it
it
heights.
fits it kind of hits the same notes that Noob Saibot's Wishbone did, just a little bit in a different way. But let me tell you the one that actually bothers me. It's her fatality, where she rips her arms off and shoves her hair up into your bleeding open sockets. That's the
know,
kind of
she
shit
had-
that's ugh.
Yeah.
She had that in 11 in a lot of places where she would like spaghetti her hair into a person's body, and I am not okay with it either.
I don't remember it happening through wounds though. Wasn't it like just the mouth and stuff, or
No, I
Maybe
think
I'm
she
just
would,
forgetting.
She would stab it into people and like weave it all throughout their body in one of her 11 things, I think.
like stabbing it into people is one thing. It's like it's her weapon. Consciously, I know that that's how she uses it, so it doesn't bother me when she's stabbing people with it. It's when she's putting it into an open wound that somehow gives me the shivers. Gah.
Yeah.
Not a lot of fatalities actually bother me, but that's kind of squiggly. Yeah.
It was pretty brutal,
That's
and
good.
I do love the taunting during it, the "Who's your queen" or whatever. I like that taunting, and I also really, really love her laugh. That just fucking cackle. Like, I guess I didn't see it as like an evil thing. Like, oh, this must mean she, dies and becomes evil by the end of the game. I could totally see why you think that, and you could very well be right. But to me, it's just like the impression I get of Sindel, even if she's good and nice-hearted, but when it comes to the battle, I look at it as like the person that's going to be so kind and so loving. But if you fucking piss her off and if she'll flip that switch and turn it into total bitch mode, and she'll fucking like, that's the kind of vibe I get from it. Like bitch, like not evil, but bitch. Like she'll fucking go from kind-hearted mother queen, but if you threaten her family, if you threaten her throne, she'll fucking tear your head off and then laugh at it. Like to me, that's kind of the vibe I got, and I love that laugh. I thought that was super cool. So like my hats off to the voice actress. I thought that's just a good laugh. I thought it was great. Like it's not easy to do a good cackle. Like it's like fucking the $1 Million
It's a good one.
Man and her. Yeah. But yeah, that's my thoughts
So-
on her fatality and whatnot.
Razor, anything?
The fatality's fine. It's a fatality. I'm over the whole system.
You're just numb. Just
I would
numb
like to see her
everything.
brutals. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
Which
I mean-
before we forget, there are
Yeah,
there
brutals.
cameo brutalities. We got
Cameo
that confirmed.
brutalities.
Yeah.
Which they
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
I'm quite positive they said in early interviews when the cameos first got announced that cameos would not have brutalities. So either they were lying, there was something miscommunicated, or they
I
made
think
time
they've
for it.
They started adding those after Ed said it is maybe what happened.
Maybe. Which, hey, if
It's
you're
been a
gonna
few months
if
since
you're
he
gonna
said
lie
that.
about something, have it be something that goes from disappointing to yay. So
I think that all of us should know.
I wouldn't put it past Ed to just lie, but I think it's more like that was like 4 months ago and they've added more stuff.
yeah.
I think it was a lie. I think it was a bald-faced lie. I believe that all the marketing is a gigantic smokescreen, and you can't trust anything that they say
This isn't
ever.
the game.
And I don't mean that like offensively. It's just that
Maliciously, yeah.
no, maliciously. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I get
the
you.
sky is blue. The weather is nice. NetherRealm Studios lies about what they're doing all the time, and they have a reputation for secrecy and trickery and hidden stuff. And I don't blame them in the least. What the hell is Motaro going to do for his brutality? I gotta know. I gotta know. All right. I'll be here all day speculating.
I hope the brutality is on the grab and he pulls your head up and lifts it into the air and it's not aligned with his hand
We're
properly.
right back here again.
Yeah, that's gotta be one. I also hope he gets a horse kick one where he just fucking does his kick and just they're like. I don't even want them to explode. I just want their body to fly off screen at an insane rate, like so fast, like fucking light speed out of the screen. That would look so hilarious.
Like a rain roundhouse, but they don't come back.
Like 5 times faster. And yes, I want it to be like 2 frames, they're out of there.
Okay, so that's Sindel covered, I think. I don't think we missed anything.
Fatality wise, gameplay wise,
Fatality-wise.
and like
Oh yeah,
her
Jesus,
gameplay stuff. She's got all sorts of crazy
Yeah.
shit going on.
I gotta admit, as we're starting to move into like discussing gameplay now with these characters, this is where I have to start being a little bit. What are you guys doing? Now, don't get me wrong. I like the fact that Sindel's, obviously she's still got her scream. She's still got. I like that she's tossing the fireballs with her hair now. That's pretty cool.
It's neat, yeah.
It's neat.
I don't know if I'm into it, but whatever.
It drives me a little nuts that she does a straight fireball and a air to ground one now.
Yeah, they give her Cabal's fucking jumping fireballs. That's gonna be a pain in the.
I suppose I can deal. I just like. I'm a stickler for Ultimate MK3 as like the template from which characters' gameplay should be formed. Like, I can't stress that enough. So, in terms of gameplay, she looks like she's going to be a lot of fun to me. She seems mostly intact, the way I like her. Couple of minor differences, but not enough. And as in the case of like Johnny Cage, or as we're going to discuss Rain, where I'm like, this is not for me. I feel like I'll be able to pick up Sindel and do some nasty things to people's cameos, which is a mechanic that I think is going to be quite enjoyable. I like this, that she's going to be able to like use your cameos against you or cancel them out. Temp was looking at that and he was like, "Oh, this is going to be such a bitch to deal with."
I have a concern that buff she has that makes the cameo refresh faster so you can
Yeah.
spam them
Yeah.
is going to be a nightmare on Kano.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, she's got quite.
Absolutely.
There's been some characters with some dirt that we've seen where it's like, okay, that might be too good. She has some stuff that I feel like is going to be absolutely nasty, and if not just annoying, I could see it getting toned down at some point because, yeah, the be able to just keep you, which I think is cool, by the way. I want to praise the idea of what they're doing, the concept of being able to. I can't remember exactly what she does to enable it, but to be able to use the cameo.
They showed her use the buff on Serena so that Serena could throw her knives, spamming them the way she did back in Armageddon, and that's cool. But if you did that exact same thing, but the cameo was Kano, and you started spamming cannonballs, I'm gonna turn off the game.
So my question is, though, when she's doing this is she's like standing still on screen, right? She can't still keep doing her things because it's essentially you're putting her on the side and letting the cameo be your main source of
Well, it
specials, right?
depends on, because some cameo moves your character can still move and act, and some of them your character stands still.
I just meant for
But
this thing
it
that
depends on
she
the move.
specifically has. Does it allow her to keep doing her thing while like basically look at it as like a trigger or a switch? When she switches it on to where you can use the cameo nonstop, does she still get to do stuff? Or if she's just standing?
I couldn't tell if she was like stuck in an animation for as long as the buff lasts, or if she just activates it and then you go.
Because if she's just standing there, I think it'll be reasonable, because then it's like you're trading what she can do for her to just stand there and essentially make the cameo her like just a normal character, like that you can just continually do the specials over and over and over. So I think that's why I like it, is because it's so unique in the fact that you're essentially making the cameo your character for a second, like, or however long it lasts. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, we don't know the specifics exactly how that works. So yeah, that's one thing to watch out for. The stealing the opponent's cameo, if you get it just right, is freaking crazy. Which I thought was awesome to be able to. In the demonstration, it was Sonya on the other side, and then Serena as hers. Stephanie was saying that you could, if you do it just right, and you had to read it. I think it was the hard read. It was the hard read to disable them, but I thought it was if you enhance it, you steal the cameo, and then you get to use them for a short period. So then you could like start a combo with Sonya, but then use Serena towards the end of the combo. Like, that is just insane to me that somebody even thought of doing something like this, and insane in a good way. Like, that's so creative. Like, that is one thing I'm blown away about so many characters in this game, their gameplay and how the cameos are integrated. It's just that, like, this does not feel phoned in. This does not feel like, think back to like small little kind of diversion of this. Think back to before we even saw cameos for the first time. We were all discussing what are they going to be, and we had a debate. Temp was saying like how elaborate he thought they would be, and then Razor, I know you were more thinking like, I hope they're just like the tower assists, so that way we could get as many as possible for the character representation. But just like, here we are now, knowing everything we know now, like, these cameos are just so fucking like above and beyond what I could have even thought was possible with these, with some of the unique gimmicks and abilities they have. It's just crazy to me.
Okay, so I think we've discussed Sindel at length now.
Yeah,
Let's move on to General Shao. Who wants to start?
Oh,
So before, like, the thing is, we've just done Shao Kahn on The Lost, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about my opinions on Shao Kahn compared to General Shao, the new character. But I do want to say, in terms of gameplay, if you put aside the fact that all of his old moves are gone and he's completely new, he is not the kind of character I would be interested to play in the first place. So my opinion, gameplay-wise, doesn't have a lot of weight. Like, there's something I learned way back in the Soul Calibur 2 days, is that people who play Astaroth only play Astaroth, and they're looking for characters that are like Astaroth. You know, there are people who like the Zoner and people who like the Rushdown guy, and there are people who like the big meaty Hoss. And I hope that this guy is the character for them. That's all I want to say about that.
That's very fair of you to say. And I will piggyback on that because I'm kind of in a similar vein where I'll say it right now. To me, I'm not a big fan of Shao Kahn. I don't think I touched him in MK11. If I did, it was just very briefly. Giggity. And I just don't. There's so many ways to respond to that, but I won't. For me specifically, my character archetype, I don't like the brawlers. I don't like the big bruiser types. I don't like the grapplers. That's just not for me. Like, it's nothing against them. It's not saying they're bad. That is not my play style. I like quick and nimble. I've gone on record saying that's why I loved Katana and MKX and what they've done with her recently. I like characters that are floaty. You can jump up in the air and delay your descent and do all these crazy shit in the air. And you get in, you get out, so on and so forth. So Shao Kahn is the absolute opposite of that, and always has been. So for me, I don't have a lot invested in Shao Kahn. So this version, I'll say as somebody that's not even like a big Shao Kahn guy, I think it looks really cool. I love the shit with the axe. I love that you can throw the axe down and then your specials or normals change while the axe is down. I love the shit that you could see where the axe was like across the screen because he threw it down, and then all of a sudden he could start controlling the axe and having it swipe going up and down back into the ground. I thought his gameplay looked really cool. Will I ever play him? No. There's other characters that I absolutely want to play. I had Shao Kahn super fatigue after MK11. In our tier list video, I rated him like a C because to me, I would have preferred he wasn't in the game to begin with. So all that said, since I have that fatigue, and since I'm not a big Shao Kahn guy to begin with, and since I didn't have much investment or anything like that into him, I think this is cool. I thought his gameplay looked like a lot of fun. Just from a kind of like what Razor was saying, like if you're into that sort of thing, hopefully this is for you. To me, if I was into that sort of thing, I think he looks pretty cool. And what I saw in the Discord chat, outside of the, this looks nothing like Shao Kahn did before, and he's a completely new character. Outside of those comments, I saw the people that like the other people, the people that were like interested in playing him here, they were very happy with what they saw and they thought he looked cool. Like the people that would actually play him, I feel like is what I'm trying to say. So that being said, for me, it's fairly harmless. To me, I would prefer a new take on Shao Kahn, which is what we're getting, than the same old Shao Kahn that we've gotten because I was just so fatigued on him. So to me, this is like, hey, at least this is new and fresh.
My argument to that would be kind of that the Shao Kahn we got in 11 wasn't Shao Kahn.
That's fair.
And I mean, there's some like character personality stuff where this General Shao is more similar to 11 Shao Kahn than either of them are to the real Shao Kahn from MK2 and 3 and even 9.
I mean, MK2 is still the best. Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. As for, I'll put the horns in there too.
No, sorry, no. Keep going.
Okay, well, I'll just say my wrapping up my thoughts on General Shao and whatnot is obviously got to talk about the horns. To me, I'm not offended by them. I know some don't like them, for sure, but for me, I'm not. I don't hate it. I like it from a. I like games like Baldur's Gate and D&D and high fantasy. So seeing him look more unique, I was never a fan of like the head fingers, whatever you want to call those. I really, quite honestly, like I thought it looked so bad. And then in MK11 with the dragon skin and stuff, I'm like, it just didn't, like, to me, So this I thought was like, it's kind of in the same wavelength of like, I think with the mask he looks cool, and quite frankly, I don't think I ever want to see Shao Kahn without a mask to begin with. So as long as you have the mask on him, he looks cool.
Here's what I would say about the horns. They do look better when the mask is on. So I feel like if the horns were built into a helmet and he never took off the helmet, I'd have no problem at all.
Yeah. I wish he always had the helmet or the mask or helmet. Because to me, when he does have the helmet, those horns and everything in gameplay, I think he looks really like menacing and badass. Like he has a cool badass look to him with those. But yeah, I hope the best case scenario is he just doesn't take it off. But that's all my thoughts.
I feel like I have a consistent feeling of characters who traditionally wear some kind of mask. In this game, a lot of them are spending a lot of time with the mask off, and I just wish they wouldn't. Like, Reptile and the other ninjas, Shao Kahn. So, and it's nothing against their faces. I just would rather that they, wore the, it's like when I'm watching Spider-Man, I would rather that when he's Peter Parker, and when he's Spider-Man, he's Spider-Man, and that we don't have to constantly have scenes in the movie where he peels off the mask to have a conversation. Or the mask has to be battle damaged so you can see more of the actor's face, you know? When you're a ninja and you're doing ninja shit, have the mask on.
Yeah. All right, so my thoughts about Khan. Trying to keep this as really diplomatic as possible. This dude ain't for me. Like, for those of you who have listened to our Lost podcast where we discuss the character's history across the old Midway games and the new ones in great detail, Razor and I recently kind of, like, as he was saying, made the point that Shao Kahn, starting with MK11, as stated by Dom Cianciolo, the writer himself, had a completely new background. He was not the original Shao Kahn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that happened in 11 in between games where Chronicle was flipping timelines over and over and over again. So what we have here is, in terms of visual aesthetics, a continuation of 11's dragon motif.
Mm-hmm.
They really seem to be hell-bent on making this guy into some sort of dragon dude, and some people out there are theorizing that he's Onaga's son, and I don't know what to think about that yet. It's certainly plausible. Anything goes in a world where Quiet
I mean, they're certainly
anything
trying to
goes.
make who his father was a plot device.
Well, and it's the answer seems pretty obvious. Onaga is a reasonable assumption.
I mean,
That's
if they're
all
leaning
that.
this heavy on the dragon stuff, then yeah.
Yeah. And to me, this is ultimately now a character that, compared to, and I've been trying very hard to avoid making these comparisons, because let's just being real, nothing is ever going to replace the original cast, the original versions of the MK characters in my heart, But this guy is so not Shao Kahn to me. He's General Shao. It's a different dude. Not only, like, first off, the background is different. The appearance is different.
They
The
have
forms are
vaguely
different.
similar personalities in that
Vaguely similar.
past Shao Kahns and General Shao both believe that strength is everything, and that the Empire constantly needs to be at war so that they won't be perceived as weak by other people and taken advantage of. But outside of that singular personality trait, it is a different person. It's effectively an all-new character.
It doesn't look like a duck. It doesn't sound like a duck. It doesn't talk like a duck. It doesn't move like a duck. It doesn't have the special moves of a duck anymore. And I'm trying not to be really, like, down on it, but Razor's right. It's a new person. I cannot look at this and say this is Shao Kahn any more than I can look at Lady Bo and say this is Bo Right Show.
Sure.
It's
jolly puking shitting drunk.
It's not Peter Parker, it's Miguel O'Hara,
Yeah, that's about the long and short of it. And I'm trying to hold off any forms of judgment. I really am, but right now I just don't feel like I can say anything about this character other than not for me.
That's okay.
I miss Shao Kahn, and I have not seen Shao Kahn, in my opinion, since MK9.
Yeah, and
And,
I mean,
this is the kind of thing that makes me feel like, along with Lady Bo, this is a stunt, and maybe one of the first things we'll see in Mortal Kombat 13, Crisis on Infinite Conundrums, is classic Shao Kahn comes through and rips this guy's head off by the horns. Who knows? I hope he does, because I can't take the horns, man. The horns are terrible. I do not like them, and it just...
Again, I think the horns are fine when the mask is on because they look like they can be built into the helmet.
I definitely
Agreed.
I've been playing a tiefling in Baldur's Gate 3 a lot recently, and they have like that kind of demonic horn looking stuff. So maybe I've just grown.
That's the thing. Like, I don't mind horns on Serena's demon form because that's a demon.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. Shout outs to, it looks like you're interacting with them in the chat. Shad Alan L says he's the voice of Shang Tsung in the game.
We are joined by Alan Lee, who is the voice of Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 1.
Well, thanks for tuning in and giving us a chance. We greatly appreciate you checking us out. And he says he can't Excuse me. Can't wait for us to experience story mode. So very cool.
Seriously, man, it's a hard fucking thing coming after like Kari Tagawa Shang, who we have loved for so many years, and having him back in 11 to voice him to appear as him for the first time in 20 years or so was really something, and that's a tough act to follow.
It's a hard act to follow, and
It
so
is.
far it seems like you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, and if you go back and listen to near the start of the episode, we actually were discussing that voice, and yeah, giving it a lot of praise. We were saying that's like in terms of imitations, like there are bad imitations out there. Like you sound so good that you couldn't even like off. Like I was wondering, is this Carrie? So that's how good it is, because that's what we hold up to the standard of Shang Tsung right now. So the fact that you can make that your own and still sound that good is fucking insane. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. What's next? We got so we talked about General Shao, we talked about Sindel, so Rain, I take it?
Rain. And yeah, I just want to stress right now, I don't have a dislike for General Shao so much as I have an absence of opinion, and just there's a void where I miss the original Shao Kahn. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna see where this goes, like I will with everything else, but let's move on. Rain. What do we think?
I think. So here's the thing that I want to say is I kind of don't like it when they make a character where you have to set a trap in one spot and then a trap in another spot before your special move goes off. Like you're doing 2 or 3 special moves in order to get the value of one. Like Raiden had a variation like that in X, Liu Kang had a variation like that in X. Those aren't they seem less than optimal to me. And I don't know, like, I'm not the big competitive scene guy. I don't know how viable they really were. I'm pretty sure Duelist Liu was very low tier. It's definitely not. It would feel like a chore to play a character like that to me, to be trying to set up Rain's portals so that I can zip around when other characters only have to press one button combination to teleport.
Yeah.
There is
But I do like the whirlpool and the bubble shield. Some of those effects are pretty cool.
He does a lot of cool stuff, and let's just say off the bat, I'm grateful he kept the roundhouse. Good lord, am I grateful he kept the roundhouse.
I'm happy to see it.
If he's got to lose everything else, just keep that one thing. That's
if he's gonna have one move, I'm glad there is a move from previous Rains in there. I don't know if I think the roundhouse is the Rain move. I tend to think of like the control orb, or maybe the lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt
also
supposed to be
one,
like,
and they pick the roundhouse. I'm fine with that.
I think that's the most Rain like trademark move out of them all. The thing that they shouldn't get rid of. Lightning is a territory covered by a lot of other people. The control orb I'm gonna miss.
What I always liked about the lightning bolt for me is that it showed that Rain was clever and he had figured out how to make lightning with water. Like he's making a rain cloud and the lightning is coming from the rain cloud, and it shows that if you're smart, you can use one superpower to imitate a different superpower.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of lightning going on, if any at all, in this new special moveset of his. Which, here's what I'm wondering.
What does he call down from the thing when he goes up into the air, does his old pose, and then it starts raining, and then I thought it was lightning that came down with it.
It's a big ball of water that has some lightning on it.
Okay.
Like it's passable.
It's technically there.
Yeah, but it is a diagonal instead of a straight down. I don't know.
Again, it's not a character I'm going to be using because, as I've said earlier, I am a very, very big fan of like the classic UMK3 moveset, you know? Mm-hmm. And a lot of this in particular, Rain in particular, is just kind of making me wonder, is it a case of moves changing to serve lore, or was the lore changed to accommodate the presence of different movesets? Which one really serves the other?
Well, you know,
I've been wondering about that for like the last hour, because like, there's a part of me that sees this and goes, it's really cool, but why didn't you just like make Hydro or something, you know? we're at a point
In
now.
MK in Armageddon, Rain was missing most of his classic moves, and they gave him a bunch of new ones, and they didn't have to come up with a lore thing to explain it.
Yeah, but like
I
that
think
was
somebody
that was
really wanted the visual of the guy holding the wizard staff.
yeah, like the 3D era stuff really was a case of like in a lot of ways engine limitations. That's why you had stuff like Rain with
Well,
the shoulder charge.
I also felt like when Rain Rain was in Trilogy, and that was the only game he was in until Armageddon. So when they got to Armageddon, they kind of looked back and went, "That character was a janky mess. We can come up with better moves for him." And then they got to 9, and they were making like
Classic
a
versions of
remake
them.
of Trilogy, so they decided to revisit the old stuff, and they went, actually the old stuff wasn't as bad as we thought it was. And now we're kind of looping around again of like, the old stuff is lame and we can do better. And we'll probably loop around again the next time we see Rain, and he'll have the orb and the lightning bolt.
That's the thing. Well,
you know what really gets me is that like now he's a wizard who went to Hogwarts. But like the roundhouse, which is the most ninja-esque move out of all the three he had, the three he started with, is the thing you would at least expect a wizard to actually be doing. You can see a wizard summoning down lightning and controlling water, and it's just so strange to me.
it could be popping like a potion or a spell to give himself like super leg strength. We don't know.
Well, it was always since they added more effects to it in 9, the thing has been that he's like adding a water hose like pressure to his foot when he does it.
Yeah. I'll jump in here just because I think I'm the of just in general, I'm one of the people that have been are pretty favorable towards this new version of Rain, this new take on Rain. To me, I love it all. I've never been a big Rain guy. He was one of my least favorite ninjas. And I always thought like, I mean, for the longest time, he got the reputation as a joke character and the character that could never make like a base roster. And he was always like the DLC character. And it's like, clearly there was something about this character that they didn't love. So I'm thinking they're coming from this like, okay, you obviously love this character. And yes, they're changing things about it. But it's like, okay, if we're going to do this and we're going to restart anew from a clean slate and kind of put this guy on a base roster, and he's not going to just be like a tack on, like, here's your Rain. Here's the Rain that you always knew. Let's tack him on as DLC. Like this time, they want him to actually have story presence. They want him to have a clear. It feels like they're trying to give him a clear concept of a character, not a ninja who's not really a ninja because he's more of like a demigod that's like royalty of Edenia and stuff. Like it just felt like this weird, to me, this is just my opinion, it felt like this weird hodgepodge of ideas that to me now it's like they have an idea in mind, it's a concept in mind, it's something we don't currently have in the series, and they retained the water bending elements. They retain, I'm sure they gave him they still gave him kind of like the ninja getup, and then they now he's gonna be more of like the mage type. But I love that. I think that's really cool. I think the staff with the little water ball on top of it is a really cool aesthetic concept because that water ball moves around, zips around the screen. He does cool little movements and animations and combos and normals with that staff moving around, kicking it around to trip up his opponent and stuff. To me, this is the most interesting Rain has ever been by like a country mile. And that's just me. That's my opinion as somebody. Obviously, I'm coming from a place where I didn't love Rain already. So if you loved Rain as he was, I could see the disappointment. I could see the issue you take with this. But to me, like, I think this character is now a character that stands on his own and isn't just another ninja.
Well, so two things I would say to that is the first is that I think 75% of the previously existing Rain fandom, shallow as it may sound, liked him because he was one of the ninjas. There are some people who just like characters that are ninjas, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Like,
Um,
Tremor's very existence and his reincarnation from the
yes,
depths of obscurity in X is a testament to the fact that people love their ninjas. That is a thing. The fact that, like, Chrome is a thing is testament to the fact that people love their ninjas for the sake of being ninjas.
there are
It's
some
just the truth.
people who can never have enough ninjas, and I like ninjas too.
I think we
The
have enough
second
of them.
thing I would say
I agree.
is that I don't necessarily feel that the previous reign had a hard time fitting into narratives or felt like a hodgepodge the way you said you felt.
Hmm.
I feel that the reign we had, at least from his second appearance in Armageddon on, what seemed to be in the model of a what I call a Prince of Thieves archetype, like
Sure.
the
The Persian.
Yeah, there was a
Aladdin
definite, like, Persian
3 or
influence.
Bruce Campbell's character in Xena Warrior Princess, or like your standard Dungeons and Dragons member of a Thieves Guild rogue.
Right.
And so the ninja elements kind of served that element of his character.
That's kind
And
of
I
where
think
I'm
there
like,
was space for that, and the reason he wasn't in so many past games was really more that they just didn't want to find a place for him, not that
sure.
he didn't fit.
And that's
And I
very
don't
fair.
like, obviously a court wizard is probably easier to shove into stuff, but Shang Tsung and Quan Chi already do those things.
They don't do it in the way that he's doing it though. Like he feels very, very, very different from a Shang Tsung or a Quan Chi. Like Quan Chi is the necromancer, Shang Tsung's your typical sorcerer. Rain is the closest we have to an actual wizard mage type.
Right, but narratively, they're the ones who do the things that wizards do in stories. And he's really just a water guy with a stick. Like they're calling him a court mage, but can he heal the sick?
Well, we don't know
yet.
yet.
Solve a problem
We haven't
when
seen
the
the
kingdom
story.
has one? Like, like what exactly does he do other than water that would be useful to the kingdom? You know what I'm saying?
Well, hopefully we find out in story mode. You're using an example of like taking characters that have existed for 30 years and saying, well, here's what they do. And now we're presenting this new idea for Rain. It's like we don't really know what he can do yet.
Shang Tsung has moves where he will pull out scrolls or books and summon things.
In MK11 for the first time.
Wizard stuff. Yeah, Quan Chi did it in X and 2. Quan Chi had those runes on the ground in 9. These guys have in the past expressed a variety to their sorcery, whereas so far I'm only seeing Rain make water.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a waterbender.
If
it's
we're
not
done,
a court mage.
If we're done like debating D&D character classes and failing to get laid, can we move on?
I don't know. That's your personal problem, man. I have no problem.
Look, all the women I've ever dated played D&D. It was perfectly.
Yeah, I was about to say my
it
wife
was
played
not
D&D.
A problem.
Fucking nerds. All right. So there's a point I wanted to bring up about all this rain, water, ninja, wizard versus court mage stuff.
Right.
And it is. People have asked us, me and Razor specifically, for a really long time now. If we don't like this and that about MK9 or X or 11, because there are some people out there who still think that we hate everything about the NRS games, and that's just not the truth. People ask us if we don't like anything, why do we keep showing up, or why do we keep on talking about the games? And I always say, for me, what matters the most is character. I'm in love with these characters, and I'm in love with the universe. That's why I'm still here. Sure. Mortal Kombat is still a fascinating place for me to be. I like it, and I miss when, people like the original Shao Kahn are not present, because I've known that guy for 20 years and I've loved him. What matters to me, as far as Rain goes, because Rain's never been a character I play a ton of, although, I'm capable with him.
Mm-hmm.
What matters to me is that he's still that kind of sneaky, gross jerk that he's always traditionally been. The kind of, self-serving bastard. And just, judging from little things like his mannerisms at that dinner table scene, the little smirk he's got going on, the smugness. I don't think his character has changed, even if his job class has. So that's what really matters to me. I am gonna miss like Purple Ninja Rain, but what we have should suffice for me, I think.
To be clear, I am primarily complaining about gameplay and costume.
Yeah, like, I think that's the thing. Like, I am at a point now where as many things about this game are making me like pump my fists in like victory and enthusiasm and wonder at like Motaro being present and Shujinko cameos and stuff like that. And then other things are like making me go, what are you doing? And like and that really hits when I'm not only being asked to accept a whole new world and different versions of the characters that I've loved, some of which are close, some of which are not, but I'm also being asked to accept completely different gameplay for a lot of the characters that I've played for a while. I am at a point where I'm just praying that when Reiko shows up, he's got like all of his MK4 tools. I'm not sure who I'm maining yet.
Yeah, I still don't have a main. It's really bumming me out.
Anyway, I think that's all I really have, and that might be all that we have for today.
Sometimes
Is there
it just.
anything that we've
I was gonna say sometimes
I-
it just
you know, I
takes
wanna
getting
say,
your
like-
hands on a character to really like gel with them. Sometimes you go into it without knowing who you're gonna main, or sometimes you go in with an idea of like, oh, I'm gonna main this person. Then you play a different person and find that you enjoy playing them. So I think you'll
Like, I
find
don't
that
want to end it
person.
on a negative note, so I do want to
No, no.
reiterate because, like, in the past, I have said I'm really kind of on the fence about buying the game because I can't find a character who feels familiar to me that I would main. Like, I love the cameos, and I just can't latch on to anybody on the roster because their moves are also different. Or the ones whose moves aren't different do exist, but they're not the kind of characters I'm usually a fan of. Like, I'd never really get into Sindel. I would never really play B Han. Like, it's just the thing that is turning me around, because like I said, I want to end on a positive note, and starting to make the game appeal to me is when I see those mini games in the invasion mode, and I remember how much fun the MK9 challenge tower was. I'm starting to remember, like, my absolute favorite thing in all of MK9, the entire game, was there were these little missions in the tower where you were Striker or Jax and Johnny,
Right.
and all you had was your projectile, and there were these waves of Tarkatans or zombies coming towards you. And I just loved how, you know, there were things you could do in this fighting game engine that weren't just a one-on-one fight with some modifiers slapped on. There were mini games, there was variety. That's what made that challenge tower so fun, and that's what X and 11 in their tower modes didn't have that really bummed me out. So seeing in the invasion, you know, jumping over these walls of fireballs and things like that, the test your might coming back, I'm starting to be like, this could be something I could sit down and play for hours at a time.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm
Yeah.
all about single player content. I'm not going to take it online much. I have never played ranked a single time in any fighting game I've ever owned.
That's for the
I-
best, probably.
I played ranked when MKDC was out, and I still bear the emotional scars.
Yeah, it's
I think I still have a pathological hatred of Superman because of it.
it's rough. I usually don't play ranked. I usually just like to play with friends. We still have the super chats to get through, so don't worry
Yes,
about
we
ending
do.
on a negative note. Speaking of,
No, we're not. And you know what? I want to stress that we're not. I don't think that anything we've said here tonight has even been negative. We're
We're good.
voicing concerns. We're not shitting on things, and those
Yeah.
are very
No,
very
look, if
different things.
I wasn't gonna play Rain anyway. I've never played Rain in a single MK game.
see, that's kind of what I gauge a lot of my opinions on. It's like, does this really affect me personally? Like, if it's a character that I don't personally play, or kind of like what I was talking about with Shao Kahn, if I don't have a lot of investment in, I wasn't going to touch him anyways, and yada, 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 then it's like, whatever, gameplay. But I totally understand where people come from that do have a lot invested in a character if that gets rattled or changed. But getting through these super chats, because we do have a few of them. We'll start off at the top here. D-Rock, thank you for the super chat. Shao Kahn comes off like a big doofus in the NRS era. I much prefer the intelligent, ancient, scary emperor. I love the 1995 movie version. Even the Annihilation. All right. I mean, that was fun. Fun to laugh.
Man,
It was glorious.
Glorious.
Sometimes I really do wonder if if MK Annihilation Shao Kahn's greatest legacy isn't MK11 Shao Kahn, because there's a bit of that like hamminess and that doofusness that kind of I feel translated from one to another.
I don't
But
know.
I
I
do
don't want
agree
to.
with
I
the
don't want to
sentiment.
be
In 8 days.
In
don't
6
want-
days, the Earth
mean.
was
I don't want to be.
created.
I don't want to be mean to Ikamati because he's done a perfectly good job with other characters, but I would gladly have Brian Thompson back.
I will pay money for Annihilation skins and voices like we did in
I would
'95
much prefer
for
his
11.
line delivery.
Give it to me. It's not just entertaining bad. It's just entertaining to me now.
Yeah.
Accept the love. And you know what?
Go ahead.
Maybe we'll get there. Maybe being optimistic, we will get from General Shao to Shao Kahn one day.
Well-
Maybe in 13. Who knows?
You know, that movie has where he throws the axe down and then he throws you on top of it would look weird with a hammer, so I don't think they can do like classic Shao Kahn with the Wrath Hammer as a skin. I don't think that's gonna work.
I think stranger things have and could still happen. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Have we mentioned Steppenwolf at all? Because people are making Steppenwolf comparisons.
Yes, he looks exactly like fucking Steppenwolf from Justice
God
League,
damn it.
and I'm sure that was Ed's idea because he loves Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I wish that there were people in NetherRealm Studios that would tell him that a lot of people are not fans of Zack Snyder DC movies.
Pull him
Man, you
aside.
can't just do that and expect it to find an audience. It's a niche thing to like those crappy fucking movies.
Okay. Next super chat.
Yep, King Ragnar. Thanks for the super chat. Heard a theory from others that Sindel mentioning General Shao's father and him having horns might hint on his father being Onaga. Any thoughts? Oh, we talked about that earlier briefly. Shad
did.
mentioned it. It's possible. I could see it. I don't want to theorize too much because it could be nothing. It could be something. I'm sure we'll find out in story mode either way.
There's a lot of rumors going on, and quite obviously, nothing says my daddy's a dragon like being turned into Trogdor the Dragon Man with huge horns and dragon skin. I can see why people are making that link. It's a very obvious one, and like I've said earlier, in a world where Kuai Liang is Scorpion, anything is possible. Anything. Maybe meets his dad.
Next up, we got Mad Mog. Shout outs to Shad and the NetherKast for mentioning my Twitter question. I appreciate it. How do you guys feel about Kronika's return, as well as her, Garrus, and Liu Kang possibly knowing about the past timeline? We talked about that a bit earlier when we talked about Kronika,
it's
but
unavoidable for Liu and Garrus to know because that's the entire concept. Like,
Yeah.
Liu created the universe. It is a sequel to 11, and Garrus is a fixed point in time. He knows every past timeline. That's always been his backstory.
yeah.
Sure would be nice if Space Baby hadn't come back, but what can
Shout
you
outs
do?
to Django, by
I
the
mean-
way.
Shout outs to Django. We missed you, buddy. Hope you're doing good. As far as Kronika being back and Garrus and Lewin, basically the line of questioning is, how do we feel about that connection to the last game? Because I think that we all came into this one
Hoping for
with
a
the
fresh start.
expectation that it would be, bam, new universe, not even a mention of hourglasses or any of the characters associated with thereof. The fact that it's not still stings me a little bit, yes. I was just hoping that it would just be something fresh, completely brand new from the start, and that they wouldn't do what they did with 9, which is do a soft reboot where some things carry over. We're still keeping these angles and plot lines from a different one. I don't appreciate being strung along like I feel like that would be healthier to just start completely fresh. But that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happened. We have to move on, deal with it as best we can. We'll see if they can take it somewhere good.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
And
gonna say for now.
beyond just giving everything a chance, like I recommend everyone always do see it in the context of its own story. Maybe Chronica won't be so bad or something. Who knows? But for me, I'm giving it a ton of leeway and a ton of just a ton of leeway because to me, they're doing so many other things right about this game. And personally, the things that I wanted most, which is the roster and the gameplay to be exactly what we wanted. And if they're doing that and you tack on the visual aesthetics of the game are amazing and the 3D era representation finally and the sound design, like the stage music and all that. Like if you get all of those things and you knock that out of the park, but you fumble with the story, I've still got like so many fucking amazing things about this game. So I'm giving the story a ton of leeway. That's how I'm going into it. Okay, next here we've got Laxnor. That's a fun name. Lax Snore. It's like Snorlax. Snorlax
It's
jumbled
no,
up.
Yes.
Actually,
yes,
actually,
that's
if you
the bit.
say that with an MK announcer voice, it works. Laxnor wins.
It
Yeah.
sounds like one of those made-up letters that was in the insert your initials part of MK4. The strongest warrior is Laxnor. No.
Laxnor for DLC.
Laxnor.
Who from the main roster would you guys want to see as a cameo in their classic form? Like as DLC coming. So that would be kind of cool. Good question. So from the main roster, who do we want to see as a classic cameo down the line?
From the main roster.
So like a character who's already in the game, but their moves are different, so you want to see them with their old moves?
Yeah,
as
like a cameo, classic cameo. Kind of like what we're getting with Johnny Cage, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Crap. Let me pull up the roster real quick. So hard to keep track.
Things that are coming to mind. I'm picturing like MK4 Reptile with that version of the acid spit, that kind of crazy spray that he had. That would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, a classic Reptile would be great.
I mean, Liu Kang does not have the classic bicycle kick at all. He has like a whirly kick. He has like the whirlwind kick, I guess you could call it.
He has like Sonya's up bike kick in his fatal blow.
So yeah, there's no classic bike kick. I would really appreciate a classic MK1 or 2 Liu Kang with the bike kick back. I feel like it hurts seeing it not there, even if its purpose is still actually accounted for in gameplay. He was really fun to play in the beta, by the way. It's really interesting to note how like they've sort of they've kind of cleverly balanced his gameplay so that there's no more air fireball spam by enhancing the godly qualities and having him throw out like 6 Dragon Ball style fireballs and keeping him vulnerable in the air as a result. I thought that was pretty neat. Nicely done.
So my two here are going to be one Smoke, but Cyborg Smoke, like exactly Cyborg Smoke. Classic as a cameo would be really cool, just to complete the set. See, it's weird because I'm so spoiled by cameos. Like I'm getting Cyrax, I'm getting Frost, like I'm getting so many characters that I love and are in my like top 5 favorites, either on the roster or as cameos, including Kenshi. So it's tough. But the other one, the big one that comes to mind is Mortal Kombat 2 fucking Shao Kahn, Speak of the Devil. I think classic Shao Kahn, exactly Mortal Kombat 2, exact uniform, the taunts, the mannerisms, the javelin shit, whatever. Like give it the green energy behind him, the trails. That would be a great one. Having a cameo that comes out and taunts your opponent just sounds great.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have him come out and do the Shadow Shoulder charge.
I'm also going to nominate Deception Havoc with the body spin or like the leg breaking low projectile skull. That shit would be really cool to see. Still can't believe we actually have Havoc.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's just insane to think of like a game with Lee May and Ashra and all this in 2023. Never thought it would happen.
Like information overload. I could talk about each one of these characters for an hour.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I got to pull up the roster because there's so many like characters that I love on it. It's hard for me to even like fathom that this is real. Like I feel like I'm gonna wake up from a dream.
So the 2 characters on the main roster who have the least of their classic moves are Shao Kahn and Rain. So if I was going to ask for any of them to be made into a cameo, it would be Shao Kahn or Rain.
UMK3 Rain would be a cool cameo. Absolutely. Okay. moving on here. We've got D-Rock with another super chat. Thank you. In my opinion, Shao Kahn's horns make him look like Steppenwolf, Medivh, Sabak, and every other generic Devilman villain. He looks good aside from the antlers. Yeah,
It's really
we
nice to know
talked
that
about
we're
it.
not alone in this.
I
say,
think a lot of people have said this. Yeah.
I do want to say, like, the way his like face, just the eyes, nose, and mouth area was modeled, does look better than it did in 11.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Then we got
honking schnoz in 11.
then we got Michael
Yeah,
Riddick.
his nose was gross.
God. Michael Riddick, thank you for the super chat. Do you guys have any detailed information on crossplay, such as sending invites and talking to one another? We do not. We have no information on crossplay. All that remains so far was that very brief FAQ they had up when they first announced the game, and it was gone within like a minute of being there, where it said that crossplay would not be there at launch, but that it would be added later on. We don't know any.
The website goes up, and 5 minutes later, they take out that paragraph.
So
okay. Again, I can say, because for anyone new, I worked in the games industry for quite some time. Crossplay between platforms and between platforms and PC is still a thing that they're kind of working with. It takes a lot of negotiation between the first parties, Sony and Microsoft. It involves a lot of work. Specialized work on both consoles. Like, you can't be on like a Sony console and start seeing Microsoft imagery or the shape of a Microsoft controller, for example. Vice versa for Sony systems. It takes a lot. And there's negotiations about like salaries, DLC, and who gets what percentage of what. If you can download a thing and use it on both it's nuts. They're still ironing out the kinks.
Well, I will say,
very common.
We have certainly known NRS in the past to majorly overhaul an aspect of the online play for a patch after the game is already out. So it's certainly something that could come, you know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me it wouldn't surprise me at all to see it come like 3 or 4 months down the line. It's another nightmare to have crossplay between consoles and PC, but I would say it's probably going to happen. Be patient. Your patience will probably be rewarded. It's just a nightmare to implement, and it takes a long time.
I really hope it does happen. I hope it's there on launch, to be honest. I hope they pulled that, like, obviously pie in the sky. I hope they pulled that from the FAQ because that was outdated information or just bad information that, like, who put this up there? That shouldn't be up there. That's not the case anymore. I'm hoping that's the case because I want one unified community. I'm not worried about like, oh, the life of the game, you know, having everybody on all consoles be able to play together online means you can find matchmaking. I don't give a shit about that. I care about all of us in our community, on the Discord and all that, being able to play together no matter if you're on PC, PS5, or Xbox. So that's what I'm hoping for. I will say I asked Stephanie at Evo for any update on that. And of course, I mean, I expected this response, so I don't blame her at all, but she just said, she can't talk about anything they haven't like announced officially or anything, so she wouldn't budge on that. But I do hope to get some like confirmation before the game is out. Would be really nice because I hope that's not like a bad surprise they're waiting to spring on people upon the game's release. I do not recommend any company doing that. Please get the bad press out early, and that way you can smooth it over with things and people get over it in time and so on and so forth. Yeah, I hope that is not going to be the case. But yeah, it's hard to say. I would assume that it's probably not going to be there at launch and they add it later, but that really sucks because other fighting games do have it at launch these days. So, and or not MKX, but MK11 eventually got crossplay between the consoles at least. So I'm hoping, still crossing my fingers.
We in compliance used to try to tell the developers, start working on crossplay when you're in alpha. Start planning for it.
Yeah.
They didn't listen to us. They never listen. But cross your fingers. Maybe they did this time, and it's just taking a bit longer to work out the kinks.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot to do.
And like, there could be a reason why that was pulled. Like I said, if it was truly the case, they should have just left it up. I think that would have been best case scenario. You leave that up, take that Band-Aid off right away. Do not let that linger. Do not leave it till the release as a surprise. I think that would be a
Well,
very bad strategy.
Ed said cameos wouldn't have brutalities, and now they do.
It's true. Yeah, things could. That's like I said, they could have immediately taken it down because they realized, hey, we might actually be able to pull this off. So let's not even address that yet. We're gonna try. We're gonna try up to the very last minute to get it done, type of thing. Who knows?
Combat Zone, House of Lies.
D-Rock, another super chat. Thank you very much. He says, or they say, I guess I shouldn't assume gender. I meant the 1995 original movie, not Annihilation. Well, you mentioned Shao Kahn. He's in Annihilation.
Well, he does show up at the very end.
As like a CG like monstrosity that knocks down the Shaolin Temple at the very end.
Yeah,
it was a cool appearance though.
Yeah,
like it definitely made him seem like an enormous, powerful force.
Bit of a Ghostbusters vibe about it, but too late. No take backsies. Annihilation Con, please.
Yeah, I think we all just use what you said as an excuse to talk about Annihilation.
Sorry.
All right, we got two more here. Byron McClendon. Do you guys think Onaga will still be the main villain, especially since it looks like Kronika is setting up Shang to be a big villain, not herself?
I never necessarily did believe Onaga would be the main villain. I thought they'd tease him for a sequel, possibly.
I think that's more likely at this point, that it is going to be this. I think it's going to be a Deadly Alliance Deception scenario where they use this game to set him up, or like a Thanos or anything like that, any big bad. They may use this game to set him up, and then he's the villain in the next game, or even possibly like an Aftermath situation. I don't think it's necessarily clean cut that that's going to be the case, though. There's still a possibility that he becomes the villain. There's still voices that are unaccounted for, like when the Lin Kuei are storming the castle thing or whatever. We still don't know who did that voice.
We've had someone figure that out. That voice, the mysterious voice from that clip with the Lin Kuei, matches Quan Chi's voice actor from the new mobile game.
Oh, okay. So then maybe it's Quan Chi. I don't think Dom. Yeah, I don't think Dom said no Quan Chi. I think he just said no Garrus and no Shao Kahn or General Shao, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what were we just talking about?
Onaga,
right. Sorry, I had 2 cups of wine in. I mean, I admit it. I was thinking that Onaga was going to be our main baddie ever since we started catching wind of rumors of the earliest characters, like coming back, like Havoc and Ashra and other people. So I was pretty convinced, but it really doesn't seem like it's going to be the case this time. My opinion on that has shifted. It's probably going to be next time, I believe.
I have always suspected that whoever the end villain of this is more of a group of people, and it's versions of the characters from another timeline.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if we're getting into time shenanigans, that's not necessarily off the table at this point.
Please put the clocks back in your pants next super chat.
Okay, last one here. Kolb's always supporting us. Thank you very much. What is the first thing you guys are going to do when you boot the game up? For me, it is story.
I always do story first.
Yeah.
5 shots at Jack Daniels, right into story.
The question is, are you guys going to do a story playthrough together where you react to it? Or are you going to do it separately this time?
Traditionally, I have always preferred to take Mortal Kombat stories on my own. I don't... No offense to anyone, but I prefer to just let my thoughts on it stew and just be away from other voices and other opinions and just take the time to look at it and absorb everything once, maybe twice. And this feels like the kind of game where that's really going to be necessary. I haven't decided yet. I don't know.
We don't traditionally have our react video be our first time seeing a thing.
Gotcha.
We never really go in blind, and one of the reasons for that is my habit whenever an MK game is coming out is that I, like a week before the game comes out, people start breaking street date, and I start chasing streams and watching as much of story mode as I can before the stream gets taken down.
Yeah.
And then I try to find the next stream that will last another chapter longer before it gets taken down.
Gotcha.
People people get the collector's edition, do they get it early? I think I recall seeing something about that.
Collectors or premium edition. So either of
Okay.
the higher tier ones, you get it a week early or about a week early. It's going to be September 14th instead of the 19th, so 5 days early.
Okay. Okay.
I am
Very good.
crossing my fingers I get a review copy. If I did, I'd probably be playing through that, and I want to be able to get a review for this game for everybody like as soon as possible. That's my desire in all of this, is to be able to. We have a pretty good following that really value our opinions, and to be able to offer those as fast as possible, like an actual like informed opinions, like getting through story, playing everything in Invasion, playing, just like binging that shit as much as I possibly could in that review period. I would do so that way everybody can get like a really informed opinion. So that's what I hope is the case. If that doesn't work out, if I don't get that opportunity, I will be like opening nights. That's tough because I love opening night sets, like getting together and running sets with the others and being able to play like King of the Hills and stuff at some point. So I don't know. Like with Injustice 2 and MK11, I think I saw like a movie version of the story like a couple days before it actually came out. Just because, like Razor said, you get the people that put it up early. So if I can find like a movie version of it, I love I loved watching through it with Temp and Down 4, doing that as like a group and being able to watch through just the cutscenes and not having to, because I don't love going through the story and having to break up what I'm like. I like to escape into stories, so I want to be able to watch it in movie form specifically, ideally, and not have to stop and do like a fight here and then a fight there and a fight here with a character that I have no idea how to use. So I'm just doing jump kicks, because I'm just trying to get through it to see the the next cutscene. So that's ideally how I enjoy the story mode. But if that's not possible, like I said, it's tough for me to answer that. Maybe I'll do like sets and then get to story like immediately after once people start checking out or something. I don't know. I like both.
So, I mean, I do have a copy of the premium edition pre-ordered, and I would say that I would stream my story mode playthrough while it's happening. I wouldn't pay attention to what anyone was saying on the stream,
Yeah.
but I would stream it. But the thing is, I live in Canada, and that means I'm probably going to get it like 2 or 3 days later than the rest of yous in the States. So we'll see.
Boo.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Distribution sucks up in here.
Alrighty.
Anyway.
Yeah, on that note, I think that is it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. You all are super awesome. Thank you for chatting away with us. Thank you, Alan L, for jumping in. That was a cool, fun surprise. And
thank you, Alan. We're
make
looking
sure
forward to hearing you in MK1.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure to like the video. If you're still listening to this, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like the video. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so. We'd greatly appreciate it. And on that note, you'll be hearing from all of us, I'm sure, soon enough as more content gets released. I'll be doing the videos and the streams and the next NetherKast as it comes along. How about you guys? Do you have another Lost or anything coming up?
We're currently in the middle of recording part 3 of Shao Kahn.
Yes, we should have that finished by this week. I will try to make the editing process as expeditious as possible.
The Deception Conquest Let's Play continues. Actually, the last episode should be on our Patreon on Tuesday. And then we will move on to playing Mythologies.
All right. Sounds like a fun time.
For me.
So check that shit out. And we'll see you all later. Take care, everybody.
See you later, nerds.
Have a nice day. And hail Reiko!